2 trailers at once. 2 trailers? That was fun, as well as unexpected. We certainly didn't see that coming. It was not on our radar. We knew the trailer was coming, but we didn't know there'd be 2. It is fitting, though. So this episode as well is two-headed. The first half will be spoiler-free, which for the most part means we won't discuss anything we already think we know from Fire and Blood, which meaning not everything we know from Fire and Blood will actually come to pass, but most of it will. And of course, we never discuss leaked scenes or scripts, though we do discuss leaked castings, for example. Maybe no plot spoilers is a good way to summarize our approach, with the exception being if something is spoiled plot-wise in the trailer, well, we're going to mention that because it's in the trailer. The second half will still be leak-free, but not spoiler-free. We'll bring out Fire and Blood to nail down what we have advanced knowledge on, though we know, again, some things will be changed. And I use the term half very loosely here because I think we have more non-spoilery stuff to discuss than spoilery stuff, so don't take me too literally on first half, second half. Sean will depart this when we start talking spoilers because he is still unsullied on Fire and Blood. He's read everything else, but that's the only one. So, even those of us who have read the story of the dance several times are going to be surprised because there's going to be things we don't see coming. That's the nature of adaptation after all. For better or for worse, we'll see. That remains to be determined. And that in itself is part of the excitement. We don't know what's coming entirely. And we'll have some examples of both and more on this episode of History of Westeros podcast. Hello and welcome, everybody. It's an exciting time, as it often is when we have new material. Yes, this isn't the first set of trailers from Season 2, but these trailers have new things in them, even though there's definitely some things we saw in the first set of trailers. Even though there's 2 new trailers at once, there were some of the same things in both. But we're happy to discuss them all, rehash some things that we discussed last time, maybe that we have different opinions on, and get in, of course, to the new stuff. Every Sunday, we live stream at 3, almost every Sunday. But during the season, that will be different. We'll be returning to our Monday and Saturday time slots, as well as sometimes during the week, we'll have additional bonus or supplementary releases. But Monday to review the episode, Saturday to preview the next episode. That's how we do it. That's how we'll continue to do it. Also, every video is going to be on YouTube. Everything is streamed on YouTube. But afterwards, you'll be able to find it edited on Spotify, and audio versions are available anywhere you listen to podcasts, and they're ad-free if you listen on Patreon. How excited are you guys? Sean, you've got your green and black, green over black shirt, and that's pretty fitting. I mean, the shirt itself and the color choice.
It is technically a Mormont shirt, but I'm wearing it because it's green. And note, there is some black, but the green is dominant. Just saying.
I have my Aegon's Crown shirt, the TV show version of the Crown, because, of course, the book version has more gems on it. It's weird that the show's version is less fancy. Usually, the show likes to make things a little fancier, but that would involve making this thing. They have to make the crown in real life.
It might help also that it's iconic looking. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If it was too intricate, it would be hard to be as recognizable of a symbol.
That's
so
true.
I really do like it.
Yeah, it's cool.
And I remember the last time, we got a little snippet, a little preview trailer. It's been a few months, but and we did some coverage, and you asked me. I have the same answer. I'm so fired up. I get so excited just thinking about this season, about the show. It's how full and rich and expansive it is, and how the sort of like suspense and drama, the character development, just even how we all love to hate characters. Just every time Daemon comes on screen, I'm like, oh, what now? I feel frustration in a moment sometimes, but the fact is I love it.
Yeah,
so I'm sure people feel that way about Kristen Cole or whoever else too.
That's a great take, Sean.
I was gonna say you said Daemon, other people would say Kristen.
Y'all can't see a shade, but she's got a cool shirt on today too, as she often does.
I happen to have a Beavis and Butthead Tom Anderson shirt, not
That's
super
right.
on brand or anything, but thanks, Aziz.
Yeah, well, Tom Anderson is, he reflects a lot of our values,
Not my
I
values.
couldn't say that with a straight
No.
face. So let's begin our episode today with, actually, let's begin this episode today by saying you can send questions to westeroshistory@gmail.com, or comments or things you notice from the trailers that we might not have caught. Of course, if you're watching live, drop those notes, those comments, those ideas in the YouTube chat, and Ashea will relay some of those to us, especially if they're good questions. But let's begin with a few quotes from Ryan Condal's recent interview with Entertainment Weekly, which I thought was great. Like, he said the things that we want to hear for the most part. And let's start with this one, Sean. This is a quote you pulled.
This is not a story of goodies and baddies, black hats, white hats, Condal says of the dueling blacks and greens. It's a story of this family that's been rent open by this dispute over who was meant to wear the crown after Viserys passes.
It's funny that he uses that example as black hats and white. Yeah, it's black hats and green hats. Yeah, well, there's no white hats. Actually, no one's really wearing hats at all. Even their helms tend to be, steel colored. I guess Daemon's is black, but most of them aren't actually.
Kristen's been known to wear a hat.
He has been, no, you're right. Or a murder cowl in the case of black cowls and green cowls.
I particularly like this quote because it brings out something that I feel I have observed, and again, I'm relatively unsullied, so I have a different perspective of what the show is presenting us, and it seems to me like they're trying to be a little more ambiguous about exactly who the good guys and the bad guys are. Like, characters on both sides do questionable things, something that I feel like maybe book readers who have had a sort of an attachment and theories bubbling for years, understandably almost completely disregard things that happen different on the show, but they make a huge difference.
Yeah.
Alicent really believes that Viserys wanted Aegon to sit the throne.
And that's not the case in the books. Yeah,
he had this last moment turn of heart on his deathbed, and I think compared to what most people would think from reading the books, that puts her character in a different position, in a different light, and maybe more justified in what she's doing. Maybe not completely justified, maybe not all the people around her justified, but I think it is a key difference in the show than the books. And I think it's indicative of the overall intent to make it harder for us to choose choose sides. And I think there's a huge shift in the fandom toward the blacks, and maybe a little bit less so for people watching the show without previous knowledge of the books. But I still feel like there's a shift to blacks even from people watching the show. But,
I agree. Yeah.
But I think Condal is trying to tell us there's not clear good guys and bad guys. However much they might be failing, I feel like they're trying to make it kind of balance between them. And it's not one is right and one is wrong. Is that they're both messing up. War is bad.
Right.
Everyone's going to suffer.
That's what I think it is. I don't think they're trying, like, that's what he's saying. It's not even trying to frame it as good or bad. It's just, these are just a bunch of guys and gals doing stuff, which is actually a quote from, I think, Less Than Zero, the movie Less Than Zero. Ben Stiller says, there's no bad guys and good guys. There's just a bunch of guys. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, like that's pretty accurate. Yet, because they're so powerful, the people who are involved with power, it's the most powerful family or families in Westeros. We have this banner, this slogan for these trailers: all must choose. Which is like, yeah, it's not choose good guys or bad guys, because you can't. That's not the choice. And and the people in the story don't have the information to make that determination anyway. Or if they do, they're being misled. So it's kind of like, if you're not with us, you're against us. You have to take a side, even if you look at both sides and be like, these sides both suck. They're both bad. Or I don't want to pick a side because both sides have good guys, and I don't want to be against the few good guys, whatever. So, but that's hard. That's part of the tragedy, is neutrality is not acceptable.
You also don't want to pick sides because they both have dragons. If someone shows up with a dragon and says, hey, whose side are you on? Like, yours, I guess.
Yeah.
But then what happens when the other dragon comes?
I guess the only way out is to pull a Laenor and just like flee the whole continent and just escape. Yeah, just like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm out of here, y'all. Fake your death and get going. Not everyone can fake your death and move to another continent, though. It's kind of hard to do.
Another point that Condal made in the interview was something, he didn't frame it like a mistake or anything, but just the nature of the story that was being told in the first season, is we didn't get much perspective of the the common folk in the realm.
Yes,
right?
I have a quote here that reflects that right here.
Okay,
that's coming
yeah.
up. So
Like we
let's
did get that
to
one scene when Daemon and Rhaenyra were like walking the streets at night in disguise, and we saw the play, you know. But I think it seems like something he wants to show a little bit more of in this season is how this is playing out for people across the realm.
Absolutely, that's what these next quotes have to deal with. So let's get into that. Condal explains how the show will continue to be about the extended family. Quote.
We had plenty of POVs to dig into in the interconnected Targaryen universe, but what about the Hightowers? How do they fit into all this? We thought it was very interesting to bring forward this character who was maybe mentioned in the first season, but not really seen or experienced in any way. How that would impact Alicent and Otto, and what he would have to say coming in from the outside, not having been raised at court in King's Landing.
So this is Gawain Hightower. Yeah.
Will you say that again?
This is Gawain Hightower we're talking about, who's been cast who's Freddie Fox is the actor. Shay and I really like that actor.
He's so good in The Great, y'all. He's the former king of Sweden, and he's hysterical.
That sentence might have been confusing, Shay. He's so good in The Great. Wait, what?
Yeah, the show The Great, yes.
The show is called The Great. It's about Catherine the Great. It's framed as an occasionally historically accurate show. It's not historically accurate at all. It's meant to be fun, but it is a dramedy. It's not completely silly.
Could I say he's also the son of a character from season 1? Not Otto Hightower. He's the real life son of the actress who played Lady Redwine. That's the lady with the little pug dog.
Yes.
That's his mom.
That's
in
his
real
real
life.
mom, yeah.
Yeah, just kind of cool. How
funny?
often does that happen?
Not often.
That's nepotism.
Yes.
Thank you.
So he is really funny, and Condal confirms that he's going to bring humor to this character. So Gawain Hightower is going to maybe be a little bit of comic relief, which is a neat thing to have on the side of the Greens, the side that doesn't get as much love from the fandom. So I think it's funny. Maybe an intentional choice.
I think the green side tends to be the side with the most humor to it. Because think about how funny Aegon scenes can be, you know?
Okay, yeah.
The humor that sometimes happens in Alicent's reactions.
Kristen
sometimes
Cole's little
even.
hat.
Kristen Cole's hat. There's a lot. I find that there tend to be more funny green scenes than black scenes, and I think that'll continue with Gawain.
That might help. Yeah, that would definitely help.
Daemon seems to have gotten the best quips, the best one-liners.
Okay,
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
When he's observing, he's hilarious. When Daemon's in the action, he's dead serious. But when he's like commenting on what other people are doing, he's just he's sarcastic and arrogant and funny. And I
think the Greens are more often the butt of the joke.
Ah, that's a good
You know
point.
what I mean?
Yes, that's true. They're easier to make fun of in some ways, yes, because they reflect some modern values that a lot of people don't like being really religious and having the that sort of umbrella around you, like the trappings of religious righteousness is something that the draconic authority isn't something we really look at in the modern world. There's not a parallel for that feels very accurate. Anyway, here's a follow-up quote that helps us get into the impact on non-decision makers that this show is going to get into, which is something we really like. It's a big part of what makes A Song of Ice and Fire great in the first place, is that it's an expansive story that includes perspectives from a lot of characters, people who aren't in charge of the narrative, people who aren't driving the story, but are still affected by it. And that's something that George did that is carried forward here. Quote.
The characters that I immediately wanted to get into are the characters that we didn't get to spend a ton of time with at the end of the season because of the needing to move through 20 years of narrative, Condal explains. We did not get to spend a lot of time with Aemond, Helena, Jace, Baela, or Rhaena.
Yeah. That is what we want to hear. Yes, give us more of those characters. Absolutely. And like you said, Sean, he also said there'd be more common folk. And he specifically recalled times in the first show where that was a really big, important thing. To have Davos or the Hound or Bronn being in conversation with highborn people, even Osha. People having conversations with people who have been taught to have manners and present themselves very controlled, and just the way highborn people often present themselves versus how lowborn people aren't taught that. So bluntness versus decorum and how those things play out. It can also be a sense of humor thing. It can generate comedy, but it can also be very poignant and show different perspectives and how those perspectives clash in when global events occur, or even when small events occur. as well, don't forget to check out our interview with Ryan Condal from just before season 1. He talks about some things well in advance, some things that are now coming to roost, like, oh, that's what he was talking about, or certain things that he was looking forward to setting up, which are now going to come to pass. Let's start with the Blacks trailer and work our way to the Greens trailer, and then, as I said at the beginning, we'll take a break and then get to the spoilery discussions. Also splitting them in half, black and green, but there'll be a lot of overlap. So it starts with Rhaenyra's voiceover, her father talking about her father naming her heir, no matter what else. That was what happened, you know. And there's a lot of shots in the black trailer, and quite a few in the green trailer as well, of just the many-faced Rhaenyra. Just different looks. Her looking at the camera or away from the camera, or just a lot of close-ups of her face, showing a variety of emotions. And sometimes there's actually quite a bit you can glean from those. I'm not complaining to say that there was a lot of shots of her face, because yeah, I mean, they're a great actress, and when you're a great actress, great actor, you can communicate a lot with your facial expression, and that's what we see with a lot of these ones. Her looking pensive, or Shay, you noted one where she's kind of fidgeting with her hands a little bit. That's a really great catch.
Yeah, this was shot right here. Rhaenyra is as if you remember from the books, Rhaenyra is known to nervously sort of fidget with her fingers, and she is doing that in the trailer.
Yeah, it's something that she and show Allison have in common. I don't think book Allison had that, but show Allison also would pick it.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. You're right.
So that's pretty interesting. It's a nice little character, a small character detail that they've carried forward and kept that consistent. That's good. And
one thing I noticed that there's I feel a difference, probably intentionally plucked out when they present this to us, that most of Rhaenyra's facial expressions are a little bit more, I'm going to say, determined. She's maybe angry, fierce, determined. Oops. Whereas Alicent's are a little bit more concerned and fearful and frustrated. You know, I think that's a clear difference in how they're being presented in this trailer.
I think I agree with trailers. That. Yeah. And now there's one of the shots where Rhaenyra is looking out over an expanse of sea, and it's just by herself, with her braid. And I remember looking at a similar shot from season 1 when we had season 1 trailers, and it turned out that this shot actually had a bunch of dragons in it, or the season 1 version of that, and they just hadn't put that in yet, or they just omitted it from the trailer. So it's possible. I get suspicious now. It's like, are there dragons in this shot too that they just omitted, or is that just am I just reading too much into it? But it's fun to think about that, because occasionally they do just scrub something from a trailer shot rather than just picking a different shot that doesn't have spoilery things in it. So apart from all these Rhaenyra shots, let's get a little deeper into it. We have this really cool one of Syrax on the beach and roaring. And this is probably following up, since we can see Storm's End in the background there, this is probably following up what happened to her son. She's probably going to investigate, find out more information, confirm it, maybe find a body, who knows. But given Storm's End is visible in the background, I think that's a pretty dead giveaway for what's happening. We did see a shot like this in the first trailer, but we didn't see Syrax, and we didn't see Storm's End, so we didn't know what was going on. It's like, this could be anywhere. Now I'm pretty sure that's what we were seeing. So now we pretty much have confirmation that was just a different angle from this exact shot. And I do think she's going to find something. I do think she's going to find a piece of him, or evidence of his death, because of the funeral scene that we have shots of in this trailer as well.
Yeah, I wonder if we'll get some sort of parallel between a funeral of some sort for Viserys and for Jace? Am I saying the right characters? Luke, sorry. Yeah. I knew I was going to mix that up.
So this is the shot on screen now, is the pyre, and there's like a secondary pyre up to the side. I guess it's just a light source. But so they're burning things on the pyre here. So maybe parts of his body, if they found it, which is kind of gruesome, but if they found any piece of him, they would want to commit it to ash, like the Targaryen burial practices say to do. That's what they do.
We also see, of course.
Yeah, and now here's a maybe more confirmation of that, is you have Rhaenyra on screen with Jace and Joffrey, and Jace is carrying what looks like Luke's clothing, and they're probably about to commit that to the flames as well.
Yeah, this is why I kind of lean towards, maybe, I don't know how much I think they really do find a proof of his death or anything, because it looks to me like they are burning what they have of him. They
Instead
don't
of a
have
body?
instead of a
Okay.
body, they're taking his clothes and burning that to try to reach some closure.
I think you might be right about that. That's a better. I like that guess better than what I was saying. So yeah, because then they can avoid the gruesomeness of a piece like an arm or something. Like
Yeah,
that.
and
Not that the show won't be pretty gruesome, but
yeah, that doesn't mean she can't still be on the beach and looking for him or anything. But I just don't know that I think she finds anything of any great significance.
yeah, and it would be unlikely.
Yeah, it seems unlikely. It does. And yeah, then they would just burn that. So I don't know.
So I really like a couple of things here to note is who's there. Looks like Bela and Rhaena are there, and Rhaenys and Corlys, but no Daemon. Still, that's not too weird because for Jace to be back for the funeral, that means time has passed because we know he went to the north, we know he's going to the Vale and the north, and there's a trailer shot of him at the wall. So he's got some traveling to do before he comes back from all that. And in fact, it might be what he may return quicker because he gets news of this. But lack of Daemon's presence is interesting. I wouldn't say it's like dramatic that he's missing. Like they're arguing, like there's a fight between him and Rhaenyra. It could be that, but I wouldn't make that assumption because there is war happening. So he's probably just in the field, but it's noteworthy that he's not there regardless.
I think people in the chat are saying, by the way, that they think it's most likely that they find parts of Arax's body. They find
That's
a dragon
a little more likely,
piece.
sure.
It's a large enough
It's a bigger
thing
yeah.
to find.
Good
Yeah.
point. There's more mass to find, yeah. Wings and all that. Yeah, that's a good point. Okay. And that's pretty interesting, and I wonder how they're going to do this scene. Also, if you look at Jace, I'm going to point out a nice little detail about him that I thought was well done. Mm-hmm. He doesn't really have curly hair in the first season. His hair grows out more now, and his hair's gotten longer, and it's gotten a little curlier. Which is fitting, because who's his father? Harwin Strong, who had very curly brown hair. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a pretty common complaint from people in season 1, the awful straight-haired wig they gave him when he has these natural curls that are just like his TV father, Harwin. But I think it does something kind of nice in my case, like in retrospect, like I don't know that it was on purpose, but it gives him like a glow up where he looks like an awkward teen boy with a bad haircut in season 1, and now he's
manly.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a glow up. He looks a little bit better, and he looks a little bit less like an awkward teen to me. And I don't know that that's intentional, but it works on that level for me.
Some of it is probably a little intentional, but I think that certainly the changing his hair is intentional.
Yeah.
But he's also a young man in real life, and it's 2 years have passed.
Yeah, well, I think there's 2 things that have happened here as well. One, in season 1, I believe he didn't actually have his hair as long when they filmed as they wanted, as his real hair. Like, and he grew it out since then. And so people then saw him like during promo for House of the Dragon. They're like, why didn't they use his hair? He didn't maybe have that long hair at the time. 1, 2, it is reminiscent of another season 1 wig, which is Loras Tyrell as Finn Jones had a terrible straight hair wig in season 1, and then they gave him his real natural curls in season 2, which is what he should have.
Yeah.
So anyways,
it's a parallel.
Yeah, it's a little parallel.
Use their real hair. So the next shot we have is Rhaenyra wearing one long braid approaching Syrax with the dragon keepers waiting. So this could be immediately afterwards where she's going to Storm's End. But it could also be any number of other times in the season where she's going to mount her dragon. So really can't be too sure about that. But it's an awesome shot. We love seeing Syrax. I love seeing the dragon keepers. These caves are awesome. And I hope we learn more about the way this all works. You know, some of the like logistics of dragon keeping, and just I hope we hear more Valyrian words and just cool stuff like that. More runes and imagery. Yeah, we got a lot of potential there. We also have a shot from Syrax's point of view of this apparently same scene. It's possible we're getting 2 different scenes that make it look like one, but that just speaks to how uncertain we are of when in the timeline this is. So either way, it's really cool, and it makes us hype for all the dragon action and the differences coming out.
Not that we aren't very uncertain about the timeline, and myself even more so than people who kind of know where the story's going from the books, but one, we can narrow it down a little bit. They're almost certainly showing us images from the first 2 or 3 episodes, not the last 2 or 3 episodes.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And they could be showing us some images from the last 2 or 3 episodes if they're very vague, right? Just like
also, yes,
a character's face or a dragon in the sky. That could come from almost any time. But I think a lot of the scenes that we see, they're going to be very careful not to spoil how things are going to play out. Maybe how things are going to be set up, but not how they're going to play out. So we can mostly narrow it down to the first couple of 3 episodes, right?
I agree. I would say maybe the first 4, but whatever. That's nitpicking, and I totally agree with you. And I do have a few candidates. I did think about this specifically that I'll point out that I think might be shots from beyond episode 4. If I think the shot is beyond episode 4, I'm going to point that out. But there's very few candidates for that. I totally agree with you here. So let's move on. We've got crowned Rhaenyra first we have a voiceover first saying she's going to fight, and then this is happening during the scene where she's at table. We have an over and behind shot where we see Baela, and Jace across from her. So married couple there, or betrothed. I guess they're not married yet. I forget. Regardless, you have a big blonde, silver-haired guy, a brown-haired man, and a dark-skinned man with dreads. We know who that is. Sean doesn't, so we won't say yet. We'll talk about that in the spoiler half. And you can also see Sir Laurent Marbrand, the Kingsguard, standing in the back. This looks like it's Dragonstone, but I'm not 100% sure of that. So she's telling these people that her intent to fight and to bring them on. So Sean, do you have any idea who these people are? And I will at least say they don't look like lords, do they? So that's interesting.
Sean muted. I'm guessing. Is he there? I'm confused.
Sorry about that. Sorry, I was muted. Yeah.
Okay. We can't see him right now with the images.
Yeah, I do remember looking at this and being like, who is that? Who is that? I didn't have any good guesses, but just probably emissaries from allied houses.
Could be
shoring up plans or allegiance. But I don't have any specific guesses. No.
Cool. Okay, well, we'll return to the scene.
We'll
in the
talk
spoiler
about
part.
this more later, y'all.
Yeah. Next up, we have a shot of Rhaenyra looking down. At first, I thought this might be no, that you had the right one. Yeah, that one. Yeah. At first, I thought this might be the Veil because there's like a little falcony looking thing to the left on that pedestal, and I thought maybe this was Lady Jane Eyre. But no, this is pretty sure this is Mysaria and Rhaenyra having a conversation, which is very interesting.
Yeah, and it could be on a rampart of Dragonstone. The architecture looks a little different. The sea looks similar, but they could just be at a different castle.
Yeah,
like
or a different part of the
Crownlands castle, a different part of the Dragonstone. Because I pulled up an image of from season 1 of Dragonstone, and just as you'll see, it looks a little bit more.
You do see that other castle in the bottom right, which maybe that's the one they're at.
Maybe that's the one. So maybe Mysaria is at Dragonstone. Maybe they're meeting at a different castle, but I don't know. It looks like Myzaria's silhouette.
Yeah, and Myzaria's been to Dragonstone in season 1 too, so it's not too weird. But I definitely wonder what they're talking about, and to get into that would be a little spoilery. But even with the spoilers, I'm not entirely sure what's happening there. And also, of course, there's a dragon visible there. That's interesting, though I doubt it's super meaningful. It's just a dragon flying around. They do that. But it could be interesting if that's not a dragon we expect. Maybe that would be neat if that's one of the wild dragons or something like that. Some comments that Ryan Condal made indicated that we would see the wild dragons. I was very skeptical of that because it's just the extra budget to include dragons that aren't particularly big in the plot. But hey, I'm all for it. All for it. Now, since that's probably not Lady Jane, we don't have a shot of her. I wanted to say something really quick about her. Since we are very likely, she's been cast, we're definitely going to see her, and probably through Jace's scenes. But it's complicated, right? Rhaenyra is an Arryn on her mother's side, and Lady Jane might be more keen to support the female candidate because of the idea that women aren't allowed to inherit. She might want to stand on that principle that they should be allowed to for the throne. But Lady Jane, how does she feel about Rhea Royce's death / murder at Daemon's hands? From her perspective, that might just be a rumor. It's not fully certain. Maybe it is from our perspective, but not from Lady Jane's. So that could be a sore point that Jace has to, negotiate around or something. So that's very interesting. Mysaria and Rhaenyra. We'll see what happens with that. Remember, Myzaria's establishment was burned down at the end of last season, so we knew she was unlikely to be foolish enough to be caught in that, given she revealed the location of her establishment. She knows that they know where she lives, so we didn't see that as very likely. But it's nice to see confirmation that she's still around, because she has things to do still, but there was a little bit of concern she'd be cut from the show.
Yeah, we also, of course, see her in a still shot, for what it's worth.
Yeah, looking around a
Zarya.
corner, looking cool and sneaky.
Yeah, so in terms of why we're like, yeah, it's very likely Zarya.
And we obviously know despite the problems she's had with Daemon, they're nothing like the problems she has with the Greens. She has huge problems with them the way that they've ruled, and now they've made it personal by burning down her establishment. So she's pretty clearly on the black side. That part should be pretty straightforward, I think. Maybe what she wants out of it
She's
is
on
not so
Team
clear.
Small Folk, actually.
Yeah.
But she'll use the blacks to do what she needs.
Yes.
Really, is how I would put it. I don't know that I'd say she's really ever on their side.
Yeah, true. Yeah, she's willing to use them, yes, to get her goals, which her goals are fairly noble as far as we can tell. So let's move on to Daemon. We've got obviously there's lots of shots of him. He's in the trailer quite a bit. First off, we have him looking smug at dinner. Now, this is funny because it's the way it's framed in the trailer. It's interspersed with that scene of Rhaenyra and her crown talking to those three men that we just discussed, who Sean doesn't know of. But it's kind of, the trailer makes it think like he's responding to her saying, I intend to fight. But he's not at that table. He's not at that dinner. So this is something else. This is trailer chicanery. And I have no idea what's going on in the scene other than he's looking given that look that he's given, like, see? But it's in response to something else. So this is just, maybe there's not much we can read into it. I mean, he's not wearing armor. There's that. So
I wanted to say, when you said that this is Daemon looking smug at dinner, I'm glad you added at dinner, because looking smug doesn't really narrow it down.
Yeah. Yeah, he usually looks smug. He's great at that. Yeah, Matt Smith has that down. That casual arrogance is just so perfect. And in fact, Daemon isn't at any of the other dinner scenes. There's several of the people at table that comes up during these trailers. There's one where he's interrupting some people that are kind of at table, but there aren't any where he's actually sitting at it, except for maybe this one. But we're not sure this is even dinner. It's just he's clearly seated, but that doesn't tell us much. Now here's another one that's very interesting. This is he certainly doesn't look smug in this shot where he's in his pajamas or his nighttime clothes. I say nighttime because it looks very dark, but there's not much else we can tell. He doesn't look smug. He looks maybe doesn't look concerned, but he looks maybe curious, or
He looks wary.
Wary. Okay, I like that word choice there. But other than that, there's a plain wall behind him. This could be
apprehensive. He looks to
What's
me
that?
apprehensive.
Apprehensive,
Wary, yeah.
okay.
So he's on edge a little bit.
Yeah, like he's not afraid, because Daemon isn't scared easily, but he's concerned. Yeah, like something's up. I like that. Yeah, that's a good interpretation. So this might be at Harrenhal. We know he's going to Harrenhal. There's lots of scenes of him at Harrenhal.
Imagine there'll be lots of spookiness at Harrenhal.
Yeah, but all the other scenes of him in Harrenhal, he's in armor. So that's what makes this a little different. Like, yeah, sure, if he spends the night there, he's probably not sleeping in his armor. But he might, because it's Harrenhal.
Yeah.
Like Victarion slept in his armor when they were at Moat Cailin, because he's like, those one scratch from one of those bog devil arrows and I'm dead. So he's not taking any chances. So the voiceover also is happening shortly after this. We have him in armor, in his gauntlets, but without his helm, and he's saying, "Your house, you can fight with us, or your house will burn." And he says it very casually, very smugly, very matter of fact. And we don't know what house he's speaking to here. There's several possibilities. I don't think this is Harrenhal. I don't think Harrenhal has these mountains behind it. I think it's more on flat ground near the lake. So I think maybe this is in the Riverlands somewhere. Since we've seen scenes of Brackens and Blackwoods, it's quite possible that this is relating to that. For sure, Daemon's going to be in the Riverlands a lot this year. So this could be that. In fact, what would be really cool, one cool theory I've seen on this is, what if those are the Teats?
Yeah.
The two mountains on either sides of him, the two hills that the Brackens and Blackwoods have fought over for forever. So that would be very cool if those are the Teats there. Now we have another shot of Daemon indoors in full armor, looking back, maybe looking apprehensive again, or concerned, or he heard something behind him, and he's dripping white. So it's dripping white? Dripping wet. Dripping white. What does that mean? So maybe he heard something behind him, and Condal, in his interview, he said Harrenhal has this reputation of being cursed or supernatural, and they wanted to play with that, meaning they're going to maybe leave it ambiguous whether it really is or not, which is a great way to play it, because that's how George plays it. So yes, I'm all for that.
I like to imagine these looks on his face of being kind of uncertain or apprehensive is someone speaking a truth to him that he doesn't like.
Ooh, that's interesting. But I wonder, like, who would be with him? You know, like if he flies there on his dragon, like who's going to be talking to him? You know
Alice Rivers, I think.
It could be Alice Rivers.
I think it's Alice Rivers, character that we know is cast as Gail Rankin from the show Glow. So that's not a spoiler to say that we know a character like that, but associated with Harrenhal. We'll get into that more in the back half.
So, yeah, maybe she's the one doing this in some way or another. But the idea that Condal said they're going to play with that, the maybe, is it cursed? Is it not? Is a great call. That's one of the things that I referred to when I said I'm glad I liked that interview, because he said a lot of things that I wanted to hear. And that's one of the things I wanted to hear. Now, here's another awesome shot. He's looking out, I guess, out over a covered bridge, a walkway going from inside to outside. You can see the rain. But it's very interesting what's going on with his sword. Like, did he just attack someone? Did he, like, his sword is pointed downward? Like, that sword was drawn, although I suppose he was walking around with sword drawn. So, like, he already had it out because he's waiting for something. He's wary of attackers. He's wearing all his armor still, so he's in battle mode.
I think we're seeing Daemon be scared.
It might be.
Saying you don't often see him be scared. I think he is getting scared here.
That could be a first, yeah. So here's another shot that's probably also from Harrenhal of him entering a room with people. He's still got his armor on. You can still see the dripping water, I think, on him, and he looks like he's finally found some people in the castle, or maybe this is earlier on. He finds them first, and then walks elsewhere. It's a huge castle.
Yeah, so. I think that this shot right here, I zoomed in as much as I could of this kind of silver-haired, kind of big man.
Yeah,
looks like the actor playing Simon Strong.
Okay, yeah.
To me, it looks like the silhouette of that man.
I agree. That's probably Simon Strong. Sean, he's the Castellan of Harrenhal. Remember how Strong rules? You know, it's Larys Strong's family. These would be his cousins or something.
Yeah. So that's what I think he's coming in to see the Strongs is my guess.
So that's interesting, isn't it? Like the Strongs obviously are hold a unusual place in this story because they're obviously Aemond is not a fan and several of the Greens aren't a fan, but whether that doesn't necessarily mean, but Larys is on the Green side. So like where are these folk going to fall? You know, how will Daemon see them as allies, enemies, unsure? Well, we have some idea from the books, but it's you can see why it would be difficult to guess at that coming in fresh like this, right, Sean? That's a kind of a conundrum, isn't it?
Yeah, I wonder if each side might treat them more like prisoners than allies. Just we'd rather not do anything than join the other side.
Yeah,
you know?
Hostages.
Even joining your side, you might not fully trust them. You're right. They might, you got to acknowledge they might be joining your side just because you're threatening them.
Yes.
And when it comes down to it, they might not be cooperative or might stab you in the back. So you just stay at home and don't mess with anything, you know.
Better to have them off the board entirely, maybe. Yeah. Like like Daemon's obviously willing to intimidate people into following him. That he's okay with that. He doesn't worry too much about them being stabbed in the back. Like the way he traded those Kingsguard and several other people, that just seems to be his method. But you're not wrong.
Wasn't worried about Tywin stabbing him in the back either.
You're right. Yeah, you're not wrong. That's a real thing, whether or not Daemon is worried about it or not. Other people on his side might be, and it's a real factor. So let's move around a little bit too. Some fun locations. Almost certainly my favorite shot of the whole pair of trailers is this one. This is, whoa. That is the Isle of Faces. That is Harrenhal. That is a dragon that I'm not sure which dragon it is. I assumed it was Caraxes because we know Daemon's going to Harrenhal, but that is not necessarily red. So one game that we need to play in this trailer review for all of you folks watching, we're going to play Identify That Dragon. We're going to play it several times. So weigh in what dragon you think that is.
I put a poll in the chat for YouTube viewers currently live. What dragon is flying to Harrenhal? I gave the option Cyrax, Caraxes, other.
So that is the first time we've ever seen the Isle of Faces on TV, I believe. I don't think we saw it in the original show. If we did, it was just briefly for a split second. So
the thing
hell yeah.
I think that's interesting about this is if it's Cyrax and Rhaenyra flying to Harrenhal, that would be later in the season, I would think.
Yes.
One. And two, like, well, will we see the Isle of Faces before this moment? Because it seems kind of strange. Like, it seems like we would have seen it earlier in the
Maybe.
season. Like why would they say it means they would save that money shot for later. But I guess if Daemon arrives and it's dark, wet, and rainy, he didn't see anything.
Yeah, he wouldn't have seen that if he arrived at night and it was raining. That's a great point. Yeah, so that's why they saved it. Either way, this is one of the few shots in the trailer that might be from beyond episode 4. It might be past episode 4. Especially if that's not Caraxes. If it is Caraxes, it's almost certainly is within the first 4 episodes. In fact, it might be episode 1.
Should we all go on record? I think it's Cyrax. I think Rhaenyra just goes
I've
to
been
Harrenhal.
convinced that it's Cyrax. I thought it was Caraxes, but I'm getting convinced that it's Cyrax.
Do you have a strong opinion, Sean?
I don't have a strong opinion, especially about who it is, but I don't think it's Caraxes.
He doesn't look red enough, does it?
Other people in the chat are saying if it's not Cyrax, the other that they think is Moondancer.
Moondancer's green, so that doesn't seem very likely either.
I agree with that.
It's
so
kind
I
of
point it
process of elimination says it's Cyrax. I mean, it could be Sunfire, which would be surprising, but that's not impossible either. But that's the only other there's not a lot of candidates. That's the thing. We can narrow it down pretty, it's not exactly a lot of dragons, and their colors are pretty distinct.
Yes.
But clearly not distinct enough, because there's debate over this.
One thing, by the way, that to follow that thought up, that's kind of true from a distance. Something hot. Dragons aren't like clearly bright red. Or
some of them might be, but you're right.
They're all just like in nature, animals are rarely like a clear, bright color. They're kind of like a vague mix of colors in a range that we end up calling brown or red or green or something. But but also, I wanted to say that I looked really close. I'm disappointed. I'm looking really close at the Isle of Faces, and I don't see any green men.
You got to look closer.
Those
Zoom
trees
and enhance.
Are the green men, perhaps.
They're very good
trees.
at hiding.
But yeah, I'm going to end the poll.
Cool.
Cyrax won.
Cyrax won. So we'll come back to this shot in the spoilery section as well. I have some things to say on that. Also, let's move on to this group headed on the snow-covered path with 2 torchbearers. We had this scene in the first trailer, but now it seems to go a little farther because we have some follow-up to that scene, which is we have snow on the trees with torches. This is probably a related shot. Doesn't really tell much. This one, however, on the wall with Cregan, Stark, and Jace walking. First of all, you can see ice over Cregan's left shoulder there when he kind of turns their faces forward. But when their faces are turned towards each other, tell me they weren't trying to conjure images of Jon Snow and Benjen Stark. Because that is what that looks like to me. Jon Snow and Benjen Stark. Does it not?
I totally agree. Yeah.
Absolutely.
They were absolutely aiming for that. There's no way that was an accident. No way in a million miles. So, yeah, that is cool. I appreciate the homage, and I'm looking forward to those scenes. Why do they even go to the wall? I mean, that's a good question. It's not weird, but it's got to have an explanation.
Yeah,
right?
my question for this is clearly is the wall, and my question for y'all is whether you think Jace meets Cregan at the Winterfell and then they journey up to the wall together, or whether Cregan is just hanging at the wall and he meets him there.
He just happened to be up there, like, oh, our lord's at the wall. You're gonna have to go up there.
The Lord is in another castle.
Literally, he's in Castle Black. Yeah, it could be something like that. Either way, it looks like they'll be spending. That implies a longer time in the north than we would have originally guessed, because slight spoiler, he doesn't go to Winterfell. He doesn't go to the wall in Fire and Blood. Yeah,
this is my other question is, does this imply that they're talking about, Aegon's dream, his vision?
Yeah.
One.
That's absolutely where it could be.
That's what it seems to me. And 2, does Jace do this before or after the funeral? I'm starting to think after. It just makes sense to me at this point. And then he came home, but I don't know.
I don't know. I think the funeral's after. I don't know that he would have heard about it in time. You know. Yeah. But we'll see. And that also explains why Daemon's not there. But we'll see. Yeah, it's not a big point worth like debating. Let's go. Yeah, go ahead, Sean.
I wanted to say I think that one reason they might have him go to the wall is it might be more distinctly recognizable by viewers. Mm-hmm. Winterfell might not clearly look like Winterfell. It's just some castle. They might want to evoke the image of the wall.
I severely doubt that. We saw Winterfell a lot in the first show. I don't think anyone's going to be confused about what it is. But you could be right. But I think we're going to see them both. I doubt they're going to skip Winterfell. I just don't. That just seems very unlikely.
Yeah, I think we'll see them both. It's just a matter of whether we'll see Cregan in Winterfell or just Jace is like, move along. I don't know, but I do think we'll see him go there.
Yeah, it would be interesting to have a certain female character at Winterfell with Jace, with Cregan not present.
Yeah.
That would be interesting. Okay, let's move on.
I think it's also, I did also want to say too that I think that you were kind of hinting at it, but I do think it would make sense for Cregan to want to show Jace the wall to remind him, like, this is what I'm really worried about.
Yeah, this is the
you guys
realm.
down there are worried about the wrong thing or fighting over power of the crown. I'll join whoever I have to join, but in the end, I'm worried about protecting this wall, you know.
And it could explain some things about how he goes forward in the war, which we'll talk about in the second half. Okay, let's look at some of these dragons and battle shots that we have. We have a dragon in the rain, almost certainly Caraxes, given that we have Daemon in the rain at night, and this is a dragon, and the neck is very long. The silhouette seems to align with what we've seen of Caraxes, so that's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, this is Caraxes, and it looks like it's Daemon on him. It's
there's almost
very
no doubt.
straightforward.
99.9%, yeah.
Which also points to Daemon doing nighttime rain stuff and Harrenhal arriving. Like, yeah.
Makes sense. Which is cool because that's how Aegon the Conqueror came. There was no rain, but Aegon the Conqueror also attacked Harrenhal at night. So that's fun. I like that callback. Now, moving forward, we have Aemond on Vhagar. This shot was basically in both trailers. I think they were slightly different, but
yes,
it's clearly Vhagar. There's no doubt. And there's a person on there. It's got to be Aemond. So, yeah. Just looks awesome. Like, oh boy, get hype. That dragon's enormous. Still enormous. Vhagar, still huge. Hasn't gotten smaller. Red Dragon with Rider is next up. Probably Meleys. Could be Caraxes, but the shape looks a little more Meleys-like than Caraxes. So, also, it's very generic. You can't see anything but sea. So...
Yeah, whereas in me, like, sometimes I just have trouble even seeing the real color clarity of some of these. I don't know. There was a part of me that was like, is this sea smoke that just has, like, a red tint in this photo? I don't know.
Yeah, it's very hard to tell sometimes. I agree with you there. This could be another example of Guess That Dragon.
I'm going to do a poll right now. What dragon is this? I have to keep it on screen for a moment.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know. Is it Meleys or Sea Smoke are only real options? I don't know that we have another real option.
It could be Caraxes. It looks reddish to me.
Okay, I'll say. I just doesn't have the long neck at all.
It doesn't have the long neck. You're right. It's got
I'll
that,
just
like...
do those four.
It has that, like, Game of Thrones dragon look, meaning, like, Balerion, Viserion, and Rhaegal all looked the same.
Other people point out it has, like, Syrax's horns maybe more. Maybe the other will win. I don't know. Wow. It's hard for me to see the colors sometimes.
Yeah, and then once you start talking about it, like, you kind of confuse yourself more. It's like you don't get any more clarity by staring at it longer.
Yeah, I see a lot of people saying, isn't that Syrax? Oh, the tail looks club-like. Oh, doesn't Meleys have more of the club-like
I was
tail?
trying to discern anything from the tail, but I don't know enough about all the dragon's tails.
Caraxes has a tail like that, but still, I don't think it's Caraxes.
I don't think it's Caraxes, though.
A lot of times, I think they should have a reddish tint to their wings because whatever color their skin is, the wings are really thin, and the blood flowing through them would give a reddish tint, especially if being hit through a lot of light, you know?
I agree, and you do see that redness in the, like, you do see that in some of them, I agree. We've seen that. It's like a pinkish or a reddish, so yeah, that's true.
People say way too small to be Meleys. I see a lot of people. Meleys is technically in the lead at 41%, but other is at 35%.
Okay.
So, you know, like, it just looks so red for Syrax to me. But I think Sean's point about the, you know, being able to see through.
There's a lot of sun in that shot.
There's a lot of sun, yeah. It just doesn't look like it's crowned very much to me either for Meleys. I was not for Meleys, but I wasn't feeling strongly for Sea Smoke. I think Syrax has somewhat convinced me a little bit, but yeah.
All right, let's move on to the next shot. We have probably Moondancer. This is a little less ambiguous as to the color, I think, personally. That looks greenish, more green to me. It's certainly not red, but it could be yellowish. Like, there's definitely yellowiness on the wings. But I think that body is pretty clearly green, and that's not Vhagar, which is the only other green dragon we know of.
I'll do a poll for this one. What greenish dragon is this to disambiguate it? For me, it, like, kind of reminded me of Syrax because of the thing around its neck, but I think it's just too green to be Syrax, really.
And we don't have, like, another shot of Moondancer to say, oh, that's not what Moondancer looks like in terms of shape and you know, structure.
So yeah, I'll do just 3 options for this one. I think it's Moondancer, and Moondancer looks a bit like Syrax. Is my thought. Is that Moondancer is a similar type to Syrax? You know how we've seen some, like, similarities. Yeah, that's my. Anyways, yeah.
Okay, so that's cool. Definitely looking forward to seeing Moondancer in action. That's
Chats, Moondancer, strong. Everyone feels most strongly about this.
yeah, and there is another shot of that we
green.
have from the green trailer that makes it also looks like Moondancer, which would match these shots. They would go together really well. So we'll come back to that.
I can show it on
By the
screen
way,
now if we want.
Is that
Okay.
around his neck and chest there? Is that like a like a harness for a saddle?
I think
Yeah,
so.
yes. Rhaenyra, Cyrax has a similar one, but Cyrax's has a little heart in the chest, which is really cute.
Oh.
But yeah, this one you see the dragon.
Yeah, look at that. See green.
And it's a little bit smaller, which Moondancer should be, slim and small a bit. So it seems this is the same. This is Moondancer, and that was Moondancer there.
Putting two and two together, what we think we're seeing here is, you remember those shots of Kristen Cole and some other dudes racing for the tree line? Well, this would explain why they were trying to get to the trees.
Yeah.
If this dragon was chasing them. That would fit quite well. Now, there's definitely no way to be sure of that, but boy, does it fit well. I mean, they were racing to the trees, and now we have maybe the thing that was chasing them. So that fits really well.
That image there, Shea, looks like its tail has kind of a larger end, like that other dragon that we were wondering if it was even red.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if maybe that could be the same dragon.
No, I still think
Or
that one
multiple dragons have that same sort of bulge on the end of their tail.
I do think multiple dragons have that.
Multiple do, like Caraxes does.
Yeah, multiple do, but not all do.
Yeah, like Vhagar doesn't. Vhagar has a very ordinary, plain, just rounded, normal-looking tail. Let's look at this next shot. We have a big triple-slitted window with it's like a dragon passing by, and that kind of looks like a Kingsguard knight. So I feel like this might be Dragonstone, because I don't know why a Kingsguard Knight would be at Harrenhal, because that otherwise would be my guess because of the darkness and maybe the rain and a dragon flying around and the vastness of this chamber.
Yeah.
Makes me think Harrenhal, but I don't know why a Kingsguard Knight would be standing there.
Is that definitively a Kingsguard
No, it's
armor
not.
to you? Okay,
it looks like a white cloak, but it might not be.
Okay, yeah, that's my take on it, is that yes, I think it could be, but it could just as well be the Strongs, for example, have a white
cloak
with the
three colors of the trident.
Yeah, the tripart.
You're
so,
right.
Yeah.
So, but it also looks like how the Kingsguard wear their cloaks. So yeah, I think there's a good chance it is Harrenhal. The knight standing there throws me off a little bit, but maybe it shouldn't too much.
Yeah.
I'm not confident at all, but this scene to me evoked a memory of the scene in the other trailer of the throne room where it looked like maybe lightning was coming through or something.
Yeah.
I thought this was the Red Keep. And,
that's interesting.
That would explain a Kingsguard. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. I guess if it's a Kingsguard, I think it's more likely to be the Stormy Red Keep, I guess, than that. But
this could also, if that's the case, if this is King's Landing, this could be another candidate for past episode 4.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be, but it's potential. And like you said, the best candidates for that are ones that don't tell us very much.
I think I'm currently leaning Harrenhal. This is like Daemon arriving or whatever, and it's someone seeing him.
Yeah, I think that fits quite well.
That's my leaning.
They're like, uh-oh.
Huh?
They're like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
He's not. Those are dark wings, but I don't think they're only bringing dark words. They're bringing Dark Sister. Hey.
Yeah.
So let's look at Corlys and Rhaenys. We got some shots of them. We have a still, I think, from First Off, I believe.
Just so still. It's a shot from the trailer.
Yeah, we have this one. Okay, this one's very revealing. Sean, take a look at the left side of his chest. What do you see there?
Hold on, I have a little delay. I can't see the image yet. Yeah.
I can tell you what I spy. It's a hand of the Queen pin on Corlys's chest.
Yes, indeed. That dude is wearing the pin.
Okay,
and
he's
talking to Rhaenyra there as well, as you can see. So he's wearing her pin and talking to her.
After all the things he did at the end of last season, like we conquered the Stepstones, we did all this, I'm on your side. You can see why he would get that promotion.
Yeah.
But he's also...
That was something
Go ahead.
I was sort of wondering about, if you can tell me if it's known and not too spoilery, but do each dueling monarchs have a full Kingsguard and a Kingsguard commander? Are those positions filled on each side?
No, they are not. They do. They not at this time, but they do become filled. And so yes, they do have that on both sides. There's going to be 14 Kingsguard, yeah. And then and more getting added and replaced.
As some fall, I
yes,
suppose,
yes.
right?
We will see Kingsguard die. Spoiler, the Kingsguard are not going to all live. Yeah, somehow the Kingsguard will... Shocking, right?
Yeah.
The bodyguards of the people trying to kill each other are not all going to make it. So Corlys is also walking. He's in a shot here with his talking to his wife. That's a good one. That's one of the stills from the press release. So this one was kind of extra selected for its quality, and it's no idea what they're talking about. Just infinite possibilities, I suppose. But here's an interesting shot. He's going to the docks. He's got his cane, which is kind of a neat little mini parallel. You've got Alicent and Rhaenyra both have a chief advisor who is using a cane. And Corlys walks to the docks. You got people bowing to him. Some of them are just kind of ignoring him. But yeah, it's just showing he doesn't have a guard, which is kind of neat. It shows that he's feels safe amongst his own people there. And there's a shot of Rhaenys, and Rhaenys has one of the voiceovers. Her voiceover is, let me scroll down real quick. It is, when the desire to kill and burn takes hold and reason is forgotten, we will not even remember what began the war in the first place. That's pretty poignant and something, the kind of thing she's been saying all along. This is right in line with her takes from season 1. Like, I'm not going to be the one to start this war because these are the kind of places war goes, and it's not her place to start it. It's not her fight, et cetera, et cetera. And so you can see this is very consistent with her character. And one of the reasons a lot of people like this character is because she says a lot of true things, a lot of hard truths. She's very wise and constantly reminds people why she would have been a better choice than Viserys. That's ruler, probably. You can't know for sure, but it seems like she would have done a better job. What do you think about that, Sean?
Yeah, other than how destructive she was to all the innocent people busting out with her dragon.
Sure, which doesn't really set her apart from the others, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're right. You're right about that. That's a definite negative. She has the same, like, I don't care about the commoners attitude that a lot of these folks have.
Like, I feel like that alone could start a war. Never mind everything surrounding it. Just killing a bunch of innocent people in the capital is something that might start a war. But she's trying to be neutral.
I think that's not cynical enough, Sean. I don't think they would start war over commoners being killed. Like, who's gonna, like, which important person would start the war,
Mazaria would start that war.
Okay. There's somebody. With what soldiers, you know? Certainly not Miguel Sapochnik's wife, whose name I forget, because neither of them are in the show. Talia, yes, that was the character's name. Or is that her real name? Or
no, that was the character's name.
Okay, Talia, yeah, she's not in the show anymore. So there's a bunch of shots of Eric and/or Arik. This same shot has been in both trailers, all 3 trailers.
Can I tell you, this shot has been in all 3 trailers, and it was in the Blacks trailer twice.
Yes,
they
just love using this shot.
And I personally am just choosing, because we believe in the Greens trailer we see Arik with the scorpion. I'm choosing to believe that this is Eric, so that we see both.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I don't know. I'm just choosing to believe that.
And don't forget, folks, these are real life twins, not like
Luke
the Lannister.
Elliot Tittensor.
Yes, Tittensor. Yes, not like the Lannister twins, who was one actor playing 2 roles. This is actual twins.
Yeah.
So
maybe it's triplets, and that's actually Eirik.
Or Uric or Oric. Yeah, there's so many of them. That's great,
That's
Sean.
hilarious.
Well, let's look. Okay, so in the Blacks trailer, there's several green shots here. Let's take a look at that.
Yeah.
We've got some nights in the woods, similar to the shots in the green trailer and the first trailer. This is that same stuff with Kristen Cole charging into the woods, probably fleeing Moondancer, as we're piecing together. Here's the similar shot we had in the first trailer. It looks like dragon fire raining down from above, people getting knocked aside, and just battle stuff happening. Yeah. There's our shot of Freddie Fox. There's Freddie Fox that we mentioned earlier, Gawain Hightower. You can see the very cool gorget that he's wearing there, which is the thing around his neck, or the lower part of the... Is that the gorget or the lower part? Is mine? I think maybe the gorget is the upper part of the neck, which he's not wearing. Either way, it's got the Hightower sigil and that cool gold filigree. And he's clearly seen some action. His lip is cut. His face is dirty. His eye is also cut. So this is not before the action. This is during. He's also still mounted, though. You can see he's still riding his horse. So he might be one of those guys, you know, flying around, etc.
it looks like the people around him are not on horses, which you know,
that makes sense.
not a whole lot to construe from that, but interesting.
Yeah, some infantry. Yeah, you can see the gold and green dragon sigils in several spots here, which are that's Aegon's version of the variation on the Targaryen sigil, which has the Hightower imagery or colors added to the Targaryen symbol. So also want to direct your attention to this shot. Otto with looks like Tywin Lannister behind him. Otto's got his fancy double gold chain there, looking kind of Otto-like, looking very serious, maybe grave would be the best way I could describe that. Like something bad has happened, or maybe this is just how he looks day to day. I don't know. It's hard to tell.
This is how he looks.
This is just Otto's. This is his. What are you kidding me? This is his happy face. This is his. This is his. I'm on my way to see my favorite movie. Look, he's like, yeah, bring on the entertainment. So
it is an interesting. I kind of pointed out earlier. I feel like that Rhaenyra versus Alicent had very different demeanors in the images that were presented for them. Otto, same thing, does seem to be more like grave and serious and maybe crestfallen even sometimes. Like he's constantly dealing with bad news. It always looks like the face he has, right?
Yes.
As opposed to Daemon, which is constantly smug, constantly like, who's bothering me now?
Yeah, even in the face of bad news, he's just like, well, of course. What would you expect? Yes, this is the world we live in. So we have Aegon in court clothes here. This shot on screen with his fancy usual gold chain that he's often seen wearing. Otto is facing away from him. Not much I can read into this scene, but it looks like Aegon doesn't look happy. Maybe doesn't look sad either, but he looks maybe thoughtful. I'm not sure. Now he definitely doesn't look happy in this shot where he's rearing back to swing a mace into someone's face, I assume. You can kind of see the silhouette of a person there.
This
looks like prison
to you?
Huh?
Is that like a real weapon he's holding? It looked like it was just like an item.
It might just be like a torch, but I think it's a mace.
Okay, I couldn't tell. Like to me, it looked like it was just like a piece of a furniture. I don't know. It just didn't look like I don't know. I was
It could
curious.
be. Yeah, it could just be.
Could it be a cane?
No, it's too short.
It's too short.
Way too short for that.
Yeah, too short for a cane, but it's just like I don't know.
It's not even longer than it's barely longer than his arm.
Yeah, maybe it has a top to it, and maybe you're right. It's a real weapon he's holding.
Well, you can see it from another angle, and it doesn't look cane-like.
Hmm.
Anyway, he's beating someone with that, which doesn't tell you a whole. I do have a pretty simple theory on who this is. He's beating. People who've read the books will probably agree with me. We'll talk about that later. Here's another shot of him sitting on the throne. There's a bunch of shots of him sitting on the throne, and yeah, see when you scrolled past, you could see that it's more weapon-like, I guess. Anyway, let's not worry about that. Here's him walking into the throne room. Here's him sitting on the throne. This is maybe the first time he sits on the throne after being named, because we saw his coronation, but not him returning to the Red Keep afterwards. We also have Aemond. Very curious shot here. This is really interesting because he's standing in front of a mural of Harrenhal burning. Getting, like, you can see the flames in the background. You can see fire coming out from one of the towers. This appears to be artwork of Aegon destroying Harrenhal. So very pro-Targaryen imagery, which doesn't mean it's not at Harrenhal, but I think the stone structures there look more Red Keep-ish, but yeah, I'm not sure.
I was saying I could see the Red Keep easily having murals depicting like
Aegon's victory.
Aegon's victory. Show Harrenhal. Show Field of Fire. I could see that. Yes, it could be Harrenhal. I'm still leaning towards Red Keep.
Yeah, me too. Or I could see. I lean towards Red Keep a little bit too, but I also could really see it being Harrenhal because Harrenhal was given by Aegon to one of his constituents, so they would also be pro-Targaryen, even though their own castle was destroyed by him. But it wasn't theirs prior to that. So. Very interesting shot, though. I'm very curious about this one's going on here. This is also potentially a candidate for later in the season, if it's not at the Red Keep. If it's at the Red Keep, then it could be. It's probably prettier. It might be like right after he gets back from killing Luke. It could be like one of the first things that happens in episode 1.
Tell you, I cannot wait to see that
reaction.
The behind the scenes of this mural,
yes.
of this artwork.
Okay, yeah.
I can't wait to see this in all its glory, like focus. They're gonna have a featurette that's about the making of it. I just know it. It's gonna be so good.
You're right. You're very right.
That was one other thing from the Ryan Condal interview, by the way. He said that the story picks right up from where it left off.
Yeah, good point.
So,
that's true.
I don't know for sure if this is the scene, but I do imagine and look forward to Aemon returning, trying to explain what he did, like
Yeah,
both
how?
how he accepts it himself and how he presents it to other people. I think it'll be
Yes.
a very intriguing moment.
I agree. So we have this morning procession here that we mostly talked about already in the first set of first trailer, because we had a lot of scenes of this in the first trailer.
Yeah.
Alicent and Helena there in mourning. Looks like Cole to the far left there on his horse. You got two other dudes, or a couple other dudes in armor that wearing Hightower gear. Not much to say about that. Let's talk about the quotes that we hear during the trailer real quick. You have Jace saying the realm will soon tear itself apart if men do not remember the oaths sworn to King Viserys and to his rightful heir. That's framed as it's being said to Cregan, which is probably accurate. But it could be him saying that to Lady Jane. That's possible. There's a line from Corlys, which is being said when he's that same moment where we see him wearing his pin. He's speaking to Rhaenyra. He appears to be saying the High Towers are marching. You must crush this beast at its head. Meaning kill the leaders, I guess. Our terms are very simple. Renounce the false king and bend the knee to the queen or your house burns. That's from Daemon. I already read the Rhaenys quote about the desire to kill and burn. And then there's the yelling, we fight for our queen. You know, that sounds like it might be Eric, but I'm not sure who is saying that. And then we have Rhaenyra saying, I fear what I have begun, which is also very poignant, and that's a lot of it. Any comments on those quotes, Sean or Shea?
Yeah, they just line up with the themes I thought the show was trying to show in the beginning, that there aren't good guys or bad guys. There's no one really to root for. It's just awful. All of this is just going to be awful.
Yeah.
You know? It makes me like Rhaenyra more when she says, I fear what I have begun. You know, she's kind of acknowledging the awfulness of it. And same thing with Rhaenys' quote. I think that those characters and the trailers featuring those statements by those characters adds to the theme that I pointed out, which I like.
Yeah, and to build on that, there's a complementary or perhaps parallel quote from Otto in the Greens trailer where he says they're about vengeance, not about the realm anymore, you know, and that's very not self-aware of Otto to say, because there's a lot of vengeance from his team. Maybe not him personally, but lots of people on his side are definitely after revenge. But it's one of those statements is Rhaenyra accepting responsibility for her role in all this, where Otto is just like, oh, it's all their fault. So that kind of thing doesn't exactly help even out the greens and blacks in terms of people liking them, but things will change probably. This is, you know, war is going to make villains of everyone to some degree, not equally necessarily. You know, a villain isn't a black and white thing. There's degrees of villainy. And
you know, that statement by Otto is like, oh, come on, Otto. But what do you think Daemon would say? You think Daemon would not blame all this on the
yeah. And he's like, yeah, revenge. That's valid though.
He'd be proud of the fact that he wants to get revenge.
It's
like obviously we're doing this for revenge.
Yeah, it's like, well, you stole our throne, and it's both. It's like, why not both? Why can't we deserve the throne, and we get to attack you for taking it from us? Like, yeah, obviously, right? What's wrong with that? So overall, yeah, there were fewer battle scenes, but they were some of the similar battle scenes, and they did build on what we learned. A lot more Harrenhal this time, and of course, there's the many-faced Rhaenyra. We saw lots of Rhaenyra looks, but that was cool. All right, let's talk more about the Greens trailer. This will be a little quicker because some of these things we've already talked about because a lot of images were in both trailers. Here's Alicent's opening line. Only weeks ago, my lord husband was alive and the realm was at peace. On his deathbed, he knew the realm would never accept a queen. Rhaenyra's supporters will believe what they wish, but Viserys wanted Aegon to succeed him. Yeah, so she's throwing her hands up saying, look, we got to go with the king's wish, regardless of what people believe, regardless of how painful it might be, etc. So we have some of these same shots. Aegon walking in, entering the throne room, taking the crown, looking kind of a little casual about it, maybe a little proud of himself. It's a change already, something we discussed already about how his power is already going to his head. He didn't want this, but as soon as he has it, he's like, oh, actually, I like this. I like absolute power. I like being cheered for. I like, actually, I like having power over my mother and my uncle who have been bossing me around forever. Stuff like that. So it's like, okay, that's ominous.
there's some parallels maybe here between Tywin and Cersei and Joffrey. You know, they like maneuver themselves into them and their family into this position of power, but just the stupid rule that says it's the oldest son. They're like, crap, what have we done? How do we deal with this crazy kid now? You know?
Yeah, and I would say Aegon is not a psychopath like Joffrey. There are parallels. I'm not denying that, but there's also some pretty important differences. One thing, Aegon.
I don't know where it's going, but I'm worried he's going to become one.
Yes.
Once he suddenly has all this power and gets to boss his own family members and elders and whoever all around, like.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I think he's going to improve his personality.
No, I just don't think he gets joy from inflicting suffering on other people. That's the difference.
I think he gets a little bit of joy from
some
it
people,
sometimes.
but it's not like
it's not the same as Joffrey at all.
Yeah.
And Brian Condal has been in our interview with him. He talked about how he's not the same as Joffrey.
Yeah,
he has some core. He has some heart. He has He's a little bit different.
I think he's a little different, but still, if you're like, this Uzi is different from this M16, like, I guess. But
well, yeah, I agree. Like, there's definitely a lot they have in common. Yeah. There's definitely a lot. But I think one thing is, I think what Ryan was trying to get at is Aegon was made this way.
Yeah.
He's nurtured. He was nurtured into this, bad nurtured. Joffrey was kind of born that way.
Yeah.
Joffrey was kind of a born psycho, I think. Because Tommen came out fine. Marcella came out pretty good.
Yeah.
Even despite the bad parenting. But I'm pretty sure Aegon is there's more signs that he's a product of his environment, that it was his upbringing that made him this way, more so than just his natural genetics or what have you. Although that's probably plays a role too.
The other thing that I wonder is where maybe Joffrey got some joy from hurting people. Maybe he does, but maybe Aegon doesn't seem to get joy from hurting people, but he doesn't have any remorse for having hurt people either.
Okay, sure.
That makes sense.
That is a good point. Yeah, I think that's a good distinction. So he's going to be a lot more featured this season. He was obviously a pretty big part of season 1, but not the early stuff because he hadn't even been born yet. So there's a moment where he says, "To war then," and he seems kind of eager about it, or maybe a little cocky about it, or like, of course we're going to war, given everything that's happened, as if it was a foregone conclusion. How did you take his demeanor in that moment, y'all?
That he was kind of relishing it.
Yeah.
That he was a little bit excited about it.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit. And I think he's going to realize his mistake. I do think he will. But I think, he's like, well, we're in it, and I'm going to fight.
I think it's naivete is a big thing there. Is it it seems to me like it's sort of a conclusion. He's got advisors standing around telling him like, well, if we do X, then we'll get Y. But if we do B, then A is going to happen. And otherwise, we're going to have to go to war. And he's like, all right, well, let's go to war. Like, he just doesn't see the downside of going to war. Like, well, of course, that's what we'll do because these other things have downsides. War doesn't have a downside. Not to him anyway. So,
let's see here. Then we've got our next shot is
him with the armor.
Yeah, with the armor. This is really cool. So he's being dressed for war. We have him in full armor. He actually almost looks a little smaller in his armor. It's so tight fitting.
Yeah, and he's shorter and smaller than Larys, who he's talking to.
Right, and he's shorter than Aemond, his younger brother.
Yeah.
So he's going to battle, which is interesting, right? That's not necessarily what you would expect. Joffrey never went to battle. This shot is awesome.
So cool.
I
love this concept of putting the crown in a helm. That's so cool.
Stannis had that, and a couple other people had that, but we haven't really seen it because the show didn't give Stannis a crowned helm. It was in the book. But not in the show. Maekar had something like this, I believe. Aegon the Conqueror himself did. So this is a total Aegon the Conqueror homage, Aegon the Conqueror moment. He is Aegon the Second. This is a helm that Aegon the First would have as well worn. Something like it would have been, attached to a war helm like that. So this is maybe my second favorite image of the trailer, with the God's Eye one being number 1.
Yeah, it's funny. Mine too.
Nice.
I really liked it.
Yeah.
I also like comparing it. I didn't pull the image up, but there's art of Aegon 2 from Amok where he's wearing kind of armor, and it's reminiscent of this armor to me as well.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah. Just seeing him in his armor.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's let's see, what are you talking about? A big side shot here of Aegon approaching with Sunfire. This is also a really awesome shot.
And I pulled up, I think I saved it here. Someone did brightened and enhanced it a bit to really show the colors
Ooh, look at
a
that.
little bit more.
That's awesome.
And you can see, like, he's got kind of Sunfire. They have a little bit of an iridescentness on their scales. It's like a blue, shimmery fish scale iridescence, and which makes sense because Sunfire is known to be the most beautiful dragon in the world. Or ever or whatever, and Ryan Condal, he talks about this and how they wanted to make sure that they reflected how unique and beautiful Sunfire is, and so I expect to see a lot.
So this is pretty clearly the dragon pit, and it's also a parallel, one of many parallels in the trailer, because we have Aegon going to mount his dragon, and we had all those shots of Rhaenyra going to mount her dragon, and of course the parallel is heightened by the fact that their dragons are somewhat similar looking. Cyrax is considered as beautiful as Sunfire, but obviously golden and yellow are similar-ish, right? And they're pretty similar aged dragons as best as we can tell as well. We have another shot of, let's go to Aegon and Alicent sitting at table together. This might be related with him. It looks like he has his hands over the back of the chair in that first shot, and then now he has his head pointed, kind of downcast. I think these are related moments. The saddest thing about this scene is that this used to be Viserys' room, and this is the exact spot where the model used to be. The big Valyrian model was right in that spot. Aww.
Where is it?
Where is it? I hope it wasn't destroyed. Can we have it?
He's not worthy of Sunfire, IMO.
He's the most beautiful Targaryen. What are you talking about?
What do you mean? What do you mean? So there's another shot of Alicent in her quarters. She's not dressed up, so it's almost certainly in her quarters, is why I'm guessing that. And probably talking to her father. Maybe, I have some spoilery things to say about what's going on in that one, especially as it relates to this conversation where Otto is sitting down and looking disturbed, and Alicent's not looking at him. And then we have Alicent immersing herself in water. It's all these things she's doing to like cleanse herself, like she feels dirty about what's happening or about something that has happened. So there's a lot of symbolism in taking a bath, when you feel.
Do you think she's just taking a bath, or do you think she's suicidal?
Okay, that's entirely possible.
I don't know.
It's okay. I hadn't thought about that. You could be right.
I was looking at it like a baptism sort of thing, which sort of a cleanse, sort of like a looking for redemption or a new start sort of a thing.
Yeah.
Because you remember in the other trailer, we also see her by the water.
She might be going to that lake.
She might be at a lake. It looks so dark, like it could just be her bath, and she's like nude. But we might see her in the water a couple of times this season, here and there. But like we definitely see from the original trailer, we had that shot of her at the water.
Yeah.
I just hope if we see Alicent in the water like that, can we also see Kristen Cole in the water like that?
Oh my god.
Spread it out a little,
But yeah, these two shots that I'm showing, so I'm wondering if it's at all related, or if there's just going to be a motif of water with her this season. I'm not sure. But then we see a lot of shots of her in mourning.
Yeah, there's a lot of the mourning shots. We've got her at the sept, in her veil, lighting candles.
Which this shot perfectly mirrors the shot of her in season 1 with Rhaenyra.
Yes, it does.
It's exactly the same
with her
framing.
blowing the thing out. Yeah, I bet they're going to remind us of that moment in other ways when the scene comes. But also we had that shot of the mourners like throwing petals or whatever. So they're all sad. A lot of people are sad. We have this is related to the scene. And this scene, by the way, there's no evidence of it in this trailers, but in the first trailer, remember, there was some evidence that maybe this turns into a riot, which is confusing to us because, spoiler, there's no riot in the books in this moment, so I'm not sure what's going on, but very interesting. So something that I'm excited to see what's going on there. Yeah, exactly. This looks like something happens during she's wearing the mourning veil, so it looks like something breaks out during the event. And we have a certain blonde-haired man there.
Yeah.
Right there, who is almost certainly, actually he is. It's the same guy that was at that table, Sean, that we asked you about. Like, who are those three guys? The big blonde head guy? That's him right there in this riot
Very
type
interesting.
scene. So
Yeah.
interesting,
Again, we
isn't
will
it?
talk about this more in the back half. But
Yes.
if you know, you know. And
If
if
you know, you know.
you kind of don't know, too.
Yeah. So Kingsguard, like, I bet this dude's arm gets chopped off like a second after that.
But yeah,
He's
these
grabbing
are-
on. You do not grab the queen with
Yeah,
3
we-
Kingsguards standing right nearby.
But yeah, we talked about this a bit in our coverage from 2023
Yeah.
of the trailer from then, but I thought I'd bring it back to show y'all what we were speaking of.
Yeah. Let's move to one other thing with Laris when she's talking to Laris and she's got a cloth in her lap,
Mhm.
which is maybe a little interesting moment. Like, what's going on there? What is she? She's in her right hand. She's clutching a piece of cloth right there while talking to Laris. And of course, we know it's Laris because of that very distinct cane that he has. So we've got that. So what is in that cloth? Maybe related to the morning thing,
Yeah.
because we also have a shot of a nursemaid with a bloody hand and bloody cloth. Just kind of walking down the hallway. And
Are those socks, maybe?
socks? Now that's quite a guess. Have socks
yeah.
been invented? I don't know. They have hose.
she had like she had a stocking on. If you remember in her
She'd have a stocking when she took
Yeah,
it off
she had
to
her
show her feet.
stockings.
Yeah,
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 anyway.
socks. I didn't even get that it was a foot fetish joke
oh,
until that. Jeez. Oh boy, I'm
sweet, you
slow
sweet
today.
summer child.
Yeah, I am a sweet summer child. Yes, I did not get the innuendo.
But yeah, this is the maid shot that we were talking about. Again, we will talk about some of these a little bit more.
Yeah,
Yeah, that shot with the bloody cloak is kind of disturbing to me. I'm trying to decide what that is.
yeah.
Uh,
It's not good. That's not paint.
Yeah. I like.
It's not
there's
wine.
been so much of it. I wondered if it was some sort of miscarriage, but maybe there's been some sort of violence in the castle, an assassination, or
Those are both possible. Yes, absolutely. Okay, so let's take a little break. We're not done with the non-spoilery stuff. I did say, remember I said first half, second half, but I also said don't take half too literally. It's more like probably 3/4 and 1/4. But this is clearly going to be a long episode, so we got lots more to say. Stick with us. We'll be back shortly with a lot more. We're still talking about the Greens trailer, and we haven't even gotten into spoilers yet. Shay, why don't you tell us about this productivity software that you and I have been using for months now? Now that we've been using it for months, we're ready to talk to y'all about it because it's proving very effective.
Yeah, I want to start off by saying we're doing a giveaway for this software called Rise. You can enter the giveaway simply by emailing westeroshistorygiveaway@gmail.com. You get a lifetime membership. Email by May 1st with the email you want it under or your preferred email. Now, I'll go on to say that I use this. I'm using it right now to track the fact that that I'm having this call so that I know how much I worked today. It's just an automated time tracking software called Rise, R-I-Z-E. And if you work for yourself, I think it's indispensable, to be honest, to motivate yourself, to keep yourself accountable, to actually understand where you're spending the most time on what kind of work, because it can be very hard for a lot of people to actually realize, oh wow, I spend X hours, emailing people in a week, right? And so I've been using it for a few months. I got Aziz started on it, and we've both been so much more productive.
Mhm.
It's been so much better,
It's
y'all.
incredible. I'm very bad with work-life separation, or work-play separation. I've been self-employed for more than 20 years, and the two things just bleed together, and it's a real problem for me. And this has really helped me define my work hours versus my non-work hours without being intrusive. It just gives me gentle reminders and helps keep me on track. Because sometimes I'm not very focused. My mind, I'm easily distracted. When I'm focused, often I'm very focused, but sometimes my mind's all over the place, which makes me vulnerable to distraction. So having just a little simple thing to keep me in line, be like, hey, aren't you supposed to be working right now? Or didn't you say you were trying to focus right now? It's not like forcing me to do anything. It doesn't have annoying notifications. It's just like gentle reminder. Hey, didn't you say you wanted to work right now? Didn't you say you wanted to do a session of work?
But
and then it can
also
remind you to take breaks. And these are all customizable features.
Yeah, it also reminds you, like, hey, you've worked your 8 hours for the day or however many hours you want to work. Maybe you should clock out and stop, which I think is important because Aziz, frankly, can be a bit of a workaholic, which, again, if you work for yourself. You kind of have to be, but I think it's really important for health to have something saying, "Hey, you've done enough today.
Yeah,
You've done it."
Part of my problem is not everything we do with the podcast is fun. I mean, sales isn't fun. Like reading YouTube comments is sometimes it's great, but sometimes it's cringy. People are kind of you never know what kind of comments you'll get. So most of y'all are really friendly and nice, but there's trolls out there. But the point I'm trying to make is A Song of Ice and Fire is fun. I got into this because I'm obsessed with it. So like it doesn't always feel like work, So that really makes it hard for me to. Yeah. It shows why it's hard for me to just make that distinction sometimes.
So if y'all are impatient and you want to just try it ahead of entering the giveaway, you can go to rise.io/u/Westeros. Use the code Westeros and you get 25% off your first 3 months.
And your first month is free entirely, right? You get a trial month. So you don't have to pay anything up front.
That's actually a very good point. Yeah, it is free up front. That's how I even tried it. I didn't want to gamble on pay money for something I wasn't sure
you got to try it before you pay for it for most things.
To be honest, the giveaway probably isn't going to be the most popular. So if you enter the giveaway, you have a solid shot at just winning a lifetime membership to this software. So please send us an email for it. Give it a shot. Improve your productivity. I'm so passionate about this product. I can't tell you. Yeah, I emailed them to ask about doing being an ambassador for them because I like it.
Yeah, we
so
reached
much.
out to them. They didn't hey, can we sponsor you all?
Yeah,
no. We've been using the product for a while, and then we're like, yeah, let's tell people about this.
And they gave us lifetime memberships too, by the way.
So we're grateful.
Yeah, we're happy. Hopefully you submit to the giveaway.
Sean, what do you have?
One thing. Mm-hmm. I've had a few friends over the years who have been self-employed, and a sentiment I've gotten from almost all of them is that there's this pro that you don't really have like a boss or a schedule, and there's this con that you don't really have a boss or a schedule.
Yep. That is
it's
so
hard
true.
To balance that on your own. Yeah.
Amen. Or in this case, we'll say Daemon. No, our Lord and Savior Daemon. No, definitely not. Very entertaining though. Okay, so let's get back to it. That was our pitch for Rise. Hopefully, those of you who want some help with your work-life balance or just productivity will check that out. RIZE. Let's get back to the trailer. Aemond and Criston Cole. Let's look at them. There's several shots of them together. Some of them are at council chambers. Some of them are like it's just the two of them work like looking at a map together, and that's interesting. So this is council's chamber. It's kind of neat how he's leaning on the table. He's like sitting on the table. There's another shot where he's actually sitting down.
He's a leaner, like Daemon. He's a leaner.
Another thing they have in common. He's a leaner. So now Aemond is not on the council. But notice, Sean, what do you see on Criston Cole's neck there? What is that there? What is going on there?
I'm still dealing with the delay and don't see the image yet, but I did notice some sort of chain, I guess, around his neck, and when I saw the trailers originally.
Yep, there is a chain around his neck, a golden chain. So Aemond being at council is interesting enough. I wonder if this is his return, if this is him coming back from killing Luke and, telling the council. I kind of don't think it would start in the council chambers. I think he would tell his family privately first. So I'm not too sure about that. But still, the quote he's saying here is, I'll face my uncle if he dares to face me or whatever.
I kind of want to see him come back wet and bedraggled and telling them.
Oh, yeah, he would be wet. You're right. He would be wet.
If he comes right in the way, if we see him, like he should be, I would think. But maybe he dries on the flight, like it's not rainy anymore and the wind dries you pretty quick. I want him to have terrible hair.
So that one shot you had a second ago where he's kind of passing through a doorway, I wonder where this is because it's got a really interesting door handle. It's like a dragony, like serpenty kind of large handle thing, and I don't know where this is. Like I would have guessed this is Dragonstone if it wasn't Aemond. Like why would Aemond be a Dragonstone? That'd be surprising.
Yeah, it would. I'm guessing just a red keep that has a little bit of Targaryen, has some dragony stuff around it some places.
Maybe this is his return. Does he look wet and bedraggled there? Not
dark
really.
At least.
It is dark, so. Okay. Anyway, not much to say about that one. Let's move on. We have Cole atop a wall with sword drawn and some men behind him, other men below him. He seems to be giving a speech here because at least given the voiceover at the time of this timestamp in the trailer, he's he's yelling, we fight for our king, the one true king. It sounds almost like something would say for Stannis, but he says, for the one true king, Aegon. That's the line that's yelled in the trailer, and it's framed as if he's saying it right here, which makes sense. They're maybe about to go into battle or something, or this might be a different place. This might be a castle that they've gotten to submit, and he's speaking to the submitted troops and reminding them who their oath is to, who they're fighting for now. Something like that. Here's another shot of him with his necklace and charging. This is kind of standard. They went a little bit Hollywood with this one. It was like, let's not have him wear his helmet.
Yeah.
They do that occasionally to make sure you don't forget who he is. I think that necklace is good enough to remind us who he is. I think he's also the only Kingsguard in this battle, but still, they wanted to be absolutely sure. We see Fabian Frankel and his handsome face.
Sean is grateful.
So, I was gonna say he's just a pretty man. You want to keep him on screen.
You're not wrong.
Out of here.
You're not wrong. They do like to put pretty people on screen, so that is a fact.
And also, he's just such an awesome fighter.
He is a great.
Oberon
fighter.
didn't wear a helmet. You know what I mean?
He is a great fighter. There's no doubt.
Should have.
So. He should have. Yeah. He should have worn eye guards. Yeah. So let's see. We have. What's our next shot?
Dragons.
We have several more dragon shots. We've seen this probably Moondancer shot. That other one as well. One that we haven't seen yet is...
Oh, which one are we on?
No, I guess we have seen all the dragon shots.
Yeah, that.
Oh, this one. We haven't looked at that Sea Smoke one yet.
Yeah, and this is Sea Smoke.
It's definitely Sea Smoke. Condal confirmed it, yeah.
Yeah, Condal confirmed it, and Sea Smoke has a little goatee kind of thing.
Yeah.
Sea Smoke's always smiling. I love Sea Smoke.
He reminded us that it's been a few years since we've seen Sea Smoke, so he's changed. He was a younger dragon, so he's aged up a little bit. And that's true, because Laenor's, escape was 4 or 5 years ago. If I remember, maybe 4 years ago. So that's a decent amount of time for a young dragon to change a little bit. So that's cool. And there's dragon keepers. So that's kind of interesting. It appears that Sea Smoke is at Dragonstone, not Driftmark, which maybe they will not bother to explain how Sea Smoke got back there. Or maybe Sea Smoke was already there. No, Sea Smoke was last seen at Driftmark. Something explains that, but it's not like, how could that be possible?
This shot. This is one of my other favorite shots.
This is almost certainly Harrenhal. It's probably related to the other Harrenhal scenes we've seen because it's got a rain and there's a dragon behind him. So this is probably a castle guardsman or knight we're just seeing seeing the people in the castle react to this dragon coming, which is probably related to that shot through the window.
Yeah, with Daemon, and it seems like it's Daemon arriving would be what it is. We see Daemon on Caraxes in the rain, in the dark. It seems, to me.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, I've forgotten the name of that earlier dragon that had what I thought looked like some sort of harness for a saddle or whatever.
Moondancer. That would have been Moondancer
right.
that we saw here, the green dragon.
But the one on Sea Smoke, that looks more like a collar around his neck, maybe to be controlled or chained.
Yeah, he's not saddled. You know what I mean? He's not ready to be ridden right now. He's just chained. Yeah. He's in here, but he's not. Yes, Sea Smoke is not suited up to be ridden into battle.
Remember, Sean, Sea Smoke currently doesn't have a rider. That you might infer from this that might be about to change.
Yeah, but that would be messed up to make Sea Smoke just wear that for years.
Yeah, right. So that's pretty cool. Let's see, what else do we have? We've got this interesting shot of an army approaching this castle. A lot about this I'm curious about. For one thing, I think we can be pretty sure that this is not an aggressive army. They're marching in a very long, straight line. They're not approaching it like they're about to attack. They certainly don't. They're not not bringing siege weapons. There's, carriages out front, which means it seems like the leaders are out front, which you wouldn't do if it was an attacking army. There's also looks like there's people walking, like 1 or 2 people walking up to pass through the gate to
couple people up on the
say
rampart.
Hello. Yeah, and they don't look scared or sounding the alarm or anything. They're just kind of standing there. They are wearing green cloaks. There's another guy you can see farther down. There's a third guardsman there at the stairwell, which doesn't tell us much. But this is an older castle. It looks kind of beat up. It's like a scrubby.
Yeah, I
foresty.
think that's the most interesting thing about it of all is how old this castle looks.
Yeah, so I really do not know what castle. Sean wrote in the notes, what castle could that be? And man, we don't know.
Yeah, I'm like, are they just passing through? I don't
what
know.
are those animals like statues that they're like a gate, like that the road passes through. I think those vaguely look bird-like to me, but that's a very not low confidence guess.
They could be anything to me. Looking at these shapes right here.
Yeah, I guess
I don't feel
they
sure.
as I said, low confidence guess.
Yeah, I know.
Any idea, Sean?
No, I was gonna ask if it could be somewhere in Dorne.
No.
It doesn't
I don't
seem
think so.
northern. It doesn't seem like the Reach. It's
not.
It's
not really a desert. It's just kind of dry.
Yeah,
there's lots of trees.
But it's not a lush forest or a frozen tundra. It's not.
Well, I see it as like the area of the Reach that kind of like the marches kind of that would border Dorne, and that it has maybe like a little bit of that Dornish landscape that is there, but is the Reach still?
This could be not near Old Town, but not.
Yeah, it's
not
not
far
Old
from
Town,
Old Town,
but
because you can't even see the ocean or anything. Although that could be another angle, but this is not Old Town.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
this is not Old Town. But it could be. This could be a Hightower army.
Some people are suggesting Rook's Rest.
It could be Rook's Rest, but the problem with that is this army doesn't look aggressive at all.
Yeah, well, would it always have started aggressive? Like, I don't know.
It also doesn't look green.
Yeah,
it looks kind of reddish. And also when we saw other shots of the Hightower army marching towards Rook Rest, they had siege equipment, and there is no siege equipment visible here. Maybe it's just in the back. Maybe it's just because this is a very long line. But that's the thing about it; they're approaching so slowly. Like they're approaching in a narrow file, which is very non-aggressive. So but maybe they're just not expecting Rook's Rest to be able to mount.
Yeah, I guess.
Defense, but I don't know.
I think it's. I know you said they look like we're red. I don't know. I saw this as the Greens army.
Okay. Moving
through the Reach, passing some castle.
Yeah, it could be the Crown Lands. It could be some of the other castles in between King's Landing and Rook's Rest. But because there's Stokeworth, we saw Stokeworth sigils in the battle and other things like that. So anyway, let's not spend too much time on guessing who this castle is, because we don't have an answer. Let's have this cool shot of King's Landing briefly. This is just a nice shot. It's just with the sea behind it, and then you can massive view of everything with the Red Keep kind of framed in the center, and then right after that you have this shot of the green banners unfurling. And when it's in full motion, that's what we're seeing is the claiming of the castle by the Greens. Red Keep claimed by the Greens. And that's obviously related to the coronation, and maybe that first time Aegon walks into the throne room. Let's go to the Riverlands. We've got we've got this Bracken shot with a sword pointed at a Blackwood with three of his men behind him. We saw similar shots in the first trailer.
We saw this shot, but not all of the Blackwoods in the first trailer. We didn't see whether these are all of them are the highborn Blackwoods or some of them are lesser Blackwoods, unclear to us, and what their names are even. We know of named Blackwoods that we're very excited to see, but they've also changed things a bit, so I can't say which Blackwoods I think each one of these is.
That could be Bloody Ben Blackwood there. That
very
hoping. Well could be, but it might be someone else. They clearly have Blackwood colors, though. That's very straightforward.
For example, we're talking about like the small folk thing and all that. Like I can't help but wonder how much we could see a Bracken being awful to some Blackwood lesser more common folk, like their soldiers, is why I even doubt that it is the actual heirs.
Okay.
I want to think that it's Bloody Ben and the named Blackwoods.
Yeah, it's going to be some knight of House Blackwood.
Yeah, but I think it would have some thematic significance if we saw him picking on lesser people, lesser folk.
I agree.
I'm with you there, Shea, but I feel like they're dressed too nice to just be
that was my question.
Farmers or whatever.
I don't think they're common farmers, but I do. I
think she's just saying they may not be actual Blackwoods. They might just be
their
like
guards,
lesser, like nobles, lesser nobles. Rather than...
I'm hoping like they're in the Blackwood colors. They're definitely with the Blackwoods. To be clear,
yes.
To be clear, I'm maybe just trying to be cautious because I'm so hyped for Bloody Ben.
A good thing to be, yes. It's good to manage your expectations. I certainly agree with that.
Yeah.
So that's obviously setting up the Blackwood. This is another potential for one of the teats right there. That could be one of the teats if that other shot wasn't, or it could have been both. Both could be. So we have, again, possibilities for the teat. We all want to see the teats.
I always want to see
as many teats as possible.
Who doesn't want to see the teats?
Yeah, who doesn't want to see teats? Come on. Next up, we have yet more shots of Eric and Arik. We don't actually have to see that again. I just want to remind people that they just keep coming up in the trailers. Actually, one of them we should look at, the one with the ballistas. This is the one where it looks like Arik is helping prepare the defenses of King's Landing, because there's this big old scorpion with racks of nasty-looking scorpion bolts sitting there. So very interesting there, but also not very surprising.
Working it, as you see in the shot, which is how how we could be sure that it's Arik.
And
if you want to remember how I remember which one is which, Arik is A for Alicent or Aegon, and then Eric is the other. But that's my trick, and I never switched them up ever since then. A for Aegon, Alicent.
Nice, that works. Yeah. Okay, let's.
Eric is E for evil and the blacks.
Oh, you.
Oh.
Okay, so let's talk about a few mysterious shots. We've seen some of these we've looked at already. One of these is like a person playing with a gold coin. It just looks like it's at council, which is probably not that telling, but it's interesting to wonder who that is. Like, who is this person twirling a coin?
Who do we think is playing with council? A coin? I was kind of thinking maybe it was Aemond. Looking at Aegon.
Could be.
You know? Because really that's Aegon. Be. I think that's Aegon across the table. It's his kind of silver, fluffy hair, you know?
Yeah, and that could be Aemond just very casually, kind of.
Yeah, that's my thought, is that I think it's Aemond.
Yeah.
I think he's the type of person that would do that. It would have most significance. I don't know why it would be Thailand, or you know what I mean? Like, I don't know why it would be. Otto wouldn't do that. He would not just play with something in his hands. I think Aemond.
I think you're right. Aemond is probably the best candidate.
Someone says maybe Larys. I could see Larys doing it. I don't think so, though.
Larys doesn't usually sit at council, though.
Yeah, you're right. He could be now.
He could be now.
I don't know.
He could be now. That's true. We have a cowled person. Looks like they're offering something to a gold cloak. This
murder
is probably
hoodie.
Daemon. It's his murder cowl. I'm not certain, but that's my guess. And we do know who that actor is, that gold cloak is. So we'll TBD. We'll spoiler chat this one a little later. So it looks like he's kind of being offered a little bribe, or maybe, is that how you interpret this scene, Sean? Maybe someone trying to bribe a guard?
I didn't think that, but when you put that in the notes, I was like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. And if not a bribe, it could also be information. It could be secret information being passed along, too. That could be as relevant as a bribe.
I like that. Yep, that makes sense. We have two men, one large carrying stuff, and the other is with a torch and a sack. We know who those two are. We'll talk about it in the spoilering, but, passing through a narrow tunnel looks, a little furtive. And indeed it is. We'll talk about that later. Okay, so we had several shots of Daemon, but I don't think any of them are any different than the ones we saw in the Black trailers. I don't think any of these are any new things that we didn't already talk about.
They're a little different.
Okay, what do we have that's different?
Just this shot of Daemon from behind, where his hair. I love when Daemon has that texture to his hair, his war texture, when he doesn't straighten it when he's out on campaign.
We saw this shot. Yeah, he doesn't. We saw this shot in the first trailer, but without Daemon.
Yes.
We saw the tents and that retaining wall, and we were wondering what that was. We guessed it was probably Blacks related because of the color of the tents. This confirms it.
Yeah.
But we don't know where this is.
That was the only one I wanted to make sure to point out, because I thought it was just such a good shot of Daemon in his armor.
So here's a few quotes from the voiceovers with the character saying them. They wish now not for the good of the realm, but for the satisfaction of vengeance. That's Otto, and I think we have a clue as to when he's saying that, which we'll talk about in the spoiler section. Aegon saying, plot against the king and I will pay it back 100 times over. I think that's probably the one where he's bashing the person. I'm as fearsome as any of them, Aegon says. Are you? Well, he's dressing for battle, so I guess we might see. Alicent saying, you have no idea the sacrifices that were made to put you on that throne. It's kind of, we've heard this before from her, saying, do you know what we've had to do? Do you know what your family's had to do for you? Yeah, like that's a refrain. We've heard that from them before. Aemon says, my uncle is a challenge I welcome if he dares face me. What do you think, Sean? Are Aemon and Aegon going to have a showdown?
It seems like they're building up to it. And it seems like something George would do. It wouldn't be the first time that two, determined, arrogant fighters, met. The Mountain and Oberon once again come to mind.
Kind of hard for them not to fight.
Seems like they've been building up that rivalry, that challenge or whatever. So
cool. Okay, we'll see.
Can I say one thing? I obviously am the one who compiles our screenshots. I go through it, I organize it, whatever. I was really found myself fascinated by how many shots of the greens there were in the blacks trailer compared to how many shots of the blacks there were in the greens trailer. There are a lot more of the greens in the blacks trailer.
The greens trailer is a good bit longer, though. It's like 20 to 30 seconds longer.
Yes,
so I think that might be part of it.
Yeah, I just found it to be slightly
but I don't know why
interesting.
they did that.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you would. I don't know why I think they did that, but it was like twice the number of shots of the greens in the blacks trailer as vice versa. Really, just I don't know.
Next quote was, "We will prevail and bring forth peace, but you must accept that the path to victory now is one of violence." That's Otto, and he's not wrong. He's not wrong. He bears responsibility, but at this point he's not wrong. And he's very eloquent. Like, that's a really good way to say it. Both his vengeance thing too. They write good dialogue for Otto. As much as I hate the words that come out of his mouth, they sound very nice and clean and well and eloquent. Go ahead, Sean.
Well, I was going to say that sounds like the next quote that we have here, good to Worthen, that Aegon says, because Aegon's like, okay, yeah, like he just doesn't see the downside of turning to violence.
Yeah,
he's like, well, let's go to violence. And
Now, in the spoilery section, there is more to it for Aegon. It's not as simple as I want to fight. So which is one of the reasons I was trying to push back a little bit against the Joffrey comparison, because Joffrey doesn't need a motivation to be violent. Maybe Aegon doesn't either, but Aegon does have some motivations here that are not clear from the trailers or from what you don't know yet.
Well, I mean, I suppose he has a motivation, like, to maintain his throne, his
it's
position,
not that.
his family safety,
it's
or
not
whatever.
That, yeah.
Because Joffrey didn't really even have that.
No,
right?
he didn't.
So,
you're right. Joffrey didn't care about that. He's just like, I just want to do my thing. So now we have Alicent's quote, which is also kind of a refrain. These are things that we hear her of the same vibe that she said in season 1. "All my life I've endeavored to serve both my house and the realm, and somehow none of it matters." Right, that's you could guess that was Alicent, right? It's in her voice, so you know it's her. But like, if you didn't know it was her, like, which quote does this go to? Like, yeah, that's probably Alicent. She said things like that in season 1 several times. There's also Kristen yelling, "Hold to your courage," which is probably related to or connected to him yelling for the one true king. It's a battle. It's a battle moment. During battle, "Hold to your courage" sounds like it's during the battle, whereas yell for the one true king Aegon might be like right before they start the battle, like get hyped for it. Anyway, yeah. There was a promo shot of Aegon on the throne holding his crown, like it's a pairing where Rhaenyra is standing and wearing her crown, and Aegon is sitting on the throne holding it, which is very symbolic. Because it's like she's owning it, she's being a queen, where he's kind of playing with it. He's not taking it as seriously. Is that how you read that, Sean? Or maybe I'm reading into it too much? Or like, it definitely means something. They didn't just randomly put the throne in his hand and have him hold it like that. That's supposed to indicate something.
Did you say throne in his hand?
Yeah, crown in his hand. Yeah, that would hurt to hold that in his hand.
Yeah, for sure. In fact, I specifically was thinking back to the image from the other trailer where he was, I decided to phrase this, playing with the ball from the council. You know what I mean? Because it seemed like he just wasn't taking it as seriously. He's toying around with this. He doesn't have this sort of reverence or responsibility surrounding his position that other people do.
Yeah, it's a privilege, but he doesn't see it that way. It's not he just sees it as his right, or just something he gets to play with.
Also get to your point about it being nurture versus nature, I guess. Like, he wasn't really prepared for this. It just kind of fell to him. You know what I mean? He didn't expect it. He didn't want it. He wasn't trained for it. If anything, he was actively avoiding it. But now he's got it. He just, of course, he doesn't take it that seriously.
Yeah. By the way, I didn't say this before, but we, on our social media, we guessed that the show would start on June 23rd. We were close. It's June 16th. So in case y'all missed that date, you probably didn't, but we did. Yeah, we were only off by 1 week, so not bad. Let's move on. This is a behind the scenes shot. This is the only one we have. It's from some cool extra material that was released. It's just behind the throne, literally behind the throne. The power behind the throne. Pretty cool. You can see like cast crew members there, so that's why it's clearly behind the scenes. It has like cameramen and people who are not wearing Westerosi clothing and stuff like that.
If I could find that image.
Oh, Shane not able to find that one. Never mind then. We also have the shot of Rhaena and Bela and Lord Celtigar and Sir Stefan when they're turning around to face. Theory on this one is that it's Rhaenyra returning from her journey to Storm's End, and they're all like, uh-oh, what happened? What did you find? They're immediately worried for her state of mind and all that. But it really could be a lot of other things. They're just seeing someone come in, I guess, or a lot of ways to interpret this. It's not super telling, but that's my favorite pick for this moment. We've also got a shot of Helena doing needlework. We haven't had a lot of Helena, so we wanted to make sure we include her.
Well, I want to talk about this in the spoilery section because
Yes,
I have a
we will.
spoilery thing to say about this.
Absolutely,
But
we
you
will.
can see
Wearing
what
a green
she's
dress,
sewing.
looking maybe a little sad, but not too clear. I mean, she's an unusual person, so her expressions aren't the most readable, given her character. We also have a shot of Laris down in the dungeon. It looks like this is probably related to Aegon bashing the prisoner, given there's that same guard. I think it's the exact same guard standing there. Or it's either related or the exact same scene. So anyway, I think that about does it for the non-spoilery stuff. Sean, This is your chance to add any last thoughts before we start talking about spoilery stuff and have you jump off.
I was tempted to ask a question that I realized, well, it might be spoiler. Like, what prisoner might he be bashing? And
we do know. We're pretty sure who we think who it is, so we're not gonna. Yeah, I won't say until.
I could imagine it being just a throwaway character, just someone who spoke out against the king, and he goes down and beats him to death, and it's just a way to show he's brutal or violent or uncaring or whatever,
losing control.
But it might be a prisoner of war. It might also show his violence or inconsideration for control and planning. Like, I can imagine he irresponsibly kills a prisoner of war that might turn a house against them. Or lose battlefield information they could have gotten.
Would have been better to execute them publicly, to make an. There's a lot of things. Exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of ways to look at that, and I'm glad and this is one of the things I'm glad you bring to the table for us is we know what that is. It's hard to imagine what else other people might see it as. It's really hard to step back once you have that information. So I really appreciate takes like that. Anything else, Sean, or is this your time to sign off?
I should probably sign off and let you guys get on with the more ostensibly juicier stuff for people in the know.
Some of it might be, but yeah. So we'll see you next time, Sean. Next week is our episode on Hard Home, so we'll be getting back into a Song of Ice and Fire stuff. Pretty hardcore Hard Home. Yeah, that'll be a really good time. Looking forward to supernatural stuff, predictive stuff about what's coming in the books. And it's a surprisingly big thing. It connects to so many other plot lines, and it contains so many different mysteries. So we're excited to talk about that with you and get your takes on that and everybody else's as well. So we'll see you next Sunday, Sean.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
All right. Let's stick with the greens. Since we were already deep in green stuff, we may as well stay there and then jump back to the blacks once we finish this. So let's go back to that tunnel shot. Hello, blood and cheese. Pretty straightforward, isn't it? You got someone with a sack that may already have a head in that sack. This may be them leaving, but I'm guessing this is them going in. Either way, it's pretty clear. We've already seen Cheese with a knife to Helena's neck in the first trailer, and that scene where Daemon was bribing somebody, where we asked Sean what we think this is. That's Blood. That is the actor of Blood. So Daemon bribing Blood, pretty straightforward. We know what's going on there. He's getting. This is unless that's not Daemon, which is possible. It might be somebody else bribing Blood on Daemon's behalf, but they might be using the conservation of actors law here to have Daemon be more directly involved rather than having Mysaria do the bribing or what have you. Either way, it seems very clearly related to Blood and Cheese. Well, not very clearly. Obviously related to Blood and Cheese.
Yeah, we literally see him as we zoomed in. We're like, we know that actor.
A huge portion of what we said we'd talk about later comes from this one. Certainly not all, but for example, the scene with the servant and the bloody hand and the bloody clothes. Pretty clearly Blood and Cheese related.
Do you think it is?
I think so. I think this is the murder at that night. Like, yeah. Not 100%, but my guess is strong, and I'd call it confident. Aegon bashing the prisoner. I think that's blood or cheese after being caught. He is bashing up. They get caught, right? In the books, they neither of them gets away. So I think that's quite possibly what we're seeing there. That's why Larys is involved. Larys has captured the person that did this and is giving them to Aegon, and he's bashing him to death. When Aegon and when Helena is sewing, this is one you wanted to talk about. This is so sad.
Yeah,
and it's also a great theory, though. Go for it.
Yeah, I wanted to pull it up. Oh, sorry, I have a cat all on me now. Of course, right when
it's your turn to talk.
Yeah, right when it's my turn to talk. Oh, there we go. Now I can pull this up. Xerxes, please stop. I love you. I've been gone all week. He missed me. Anyways, Twitter user Johnny Flynn pointed this out. I did not notice it, but Helena appears to be sewing the shroud right here. Which we see in filming shots of the shroud itself, and that is what she is sewing. And they had a nice theory that I like, which is, what if Helena...
It's not very nice at all.
No.
It's a quality theory.
It's
an insightful theory.
But what if Helena starts sewing this before the death, even? Like, she knows that she has to start sewing a shroud for something.
Yeah.
A small shroud? I don't know. I just liked that idea, because otherwise, like, she has to have a pretty quick turnaround to have it for the funeral, you know?
You're right.
Like,
Unless it was already made, but you're right.
Yeah, unless it was already made.
But clearly, almost clearly, this is what's happening. That's a great catch.
Yeah, because we can see. Should I show the photo that we had from filming, or no?
Yeah.
Here, we saw right here from filming. It's the same thing. That's the same pattern on it.
Yeah.
As what she's
and
sewing.
Of course, that's young Aegon, and that's what I meant when I hinted to Sean that Aegon's motivation isn't just violence. He's motivated by the death of his son.
Mean young Aegon, or is that
Aegon? Yeah, of course.
Oh,
Aegon.
okay. Yeah.
Well, who would it be?
Oh, I thought it was.
Oh, you mean Jaehaerys? Sorry, Jaehaerys. Yeah, my bad. I said Aegon.
Yeah, you said
Whoops.
Aegon. That's why I was.
I meant Aegon's son. Yeah, Jaehaerys. Poor young Jaehaerys and Jaehaerys. Yeah, Jaehaerys is still alive, but Jaehaerys is killed. So he's motivated by that. So that also makes Otto's point about revenge motivation. He's like, oh, they're motivated by revenge because they just murdered our son.
Yes.
Or his grandson in this case. Or great-grandson.
Yeah.
And, geez, hard to keep track. Yeah. Great-grandson has just been murdered, so that's why he's sitting and talking about revenge. But that's exactly what Aegon's motivation becomes, I think. Because he's motivated by revenge because they killed his child. So that's a pretty big deal. And it certainly isn't just a psychopath who wants blood. No, they killed his son. That's a huge thing. That's like, yeah, I get why he wants revenge. And I think this moment is about that. This moment where he has his head down, looking kind of sad maybe, and Alicent's talking to him, and I think this is just right after that. Like, they're dealing with it. You know? It's hard for me to think of what would have Aegon looking downcast. You know, he's so, like, cocky and arrogant. I mean, it's a facade, but he rarely shows like his true feelings. That's a kind of running theme with him, is because he's not really allowed to have true feelings. So yeah, they're drinking a glass of wine, and by the way, Aegon in the book becomes an alcoholic. That could be a little bit of foreshadowing here towards that, maybe. I don't know. I'm not sure if they're actually going to do that, but yeah, I think that's very important. He's going to fire Otto. And part of the reason he's going to fire, I mean, we were pointing out Kristen Cole's necklace. That is his Hand of the King necklace. So Otto's going to get fired, and it's probably partly because of his lack of progress in getting revenge. He's not just about winning the war. He also wants revenge for his dead son. It's not happening quickly enough for him, which again shows the irony there. Otto accuses the Blacks of only being in it for vengeance, and I'm pretty sure Aegon's going to be very in it for vengeance. And it's not like Aemon's motivation is noble. He just like wants to be the baddest man in Westeros, you know? He's not like, I'm the most suited to be king. No, he just thinks he would be anyway. Of course, Eric Ark, we've talked about that a bunch of times. We're definitely getting that scene probably pretty early on, but I think it might be framed more as revenge, whereas in the book, it's just like the next step back and forth, whereas I think this is like, no, we're going to get them. And it's going to be framed that way because it's going to be Kristen Cole's like first act as Hand of the King. Otto's going to get fired, and Kristen's like, here's what I'm going to do. We're going to go for the throat right away. We're going to get our revenge now. I've got an idea how to do it. And this was a little bit set up by Kristen's, like, kind of mocking Eric a little bit when he kind of outdid him in that chase for Aegon in episode 9. What else do we have here? The Cole shot with Aemond right after when they're looking at the map together. I have a suspicion this is after Rook's Rest. And that council scene might be after Rook's Rest too. The reason being, Kristen Cole's already got his hand of office, which would have come a little later. We're not sure if Aegon is even at that council. I think he might be, but he might not be. So this might be after Aemond is elevated to the title of Prince Regent and Protector of the Realm after Aegon becomes severely wounded. So, that's interesting, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that one. This moment here, yeah, you can see Aemond leaning on the table. Kristen's wearing his chain of office, so this can't be like episode 1, I don't think. I guess it could be. I guess Otto's firing could be that quick, but I kind of don't think it'll be that fast. Anyway, good thing to think about, but we don't have answers. Let's talk about the spoiler stuff from the Blacks trailer now. Isle of Faces in Harrenhal. Let's go back to that one for a sec. One of the things that I am curious about is the soul. Obviously, the Cyrax. If Cyrax goes to Harrenhal, that's a change from the books. It makes sense though, because they obviously, after the victory at Harrenhal, what comes next is they take King's Landing. But in the book, it's not really clarified how they plan that. Like Daemon's not there, so like how did they coordinate this? So this kind of they're kind of tying up that loose end by having Rhaenyra fly to a captured Harrenhal and speak with Daemon about how they're going to proceed. But man, I kind of wish it was Daemon because it's foreshadowing his death, passing over the God's Eye, right? So hopefully we do get maybe a different version of that, or maybe Daemon passes over at some other time because, again, foreshadowing his death seems like a fun thing to do or a reasonable thing to do. But of course, it's not necessary. That was part of the reason I thought this was Caraxes in the first place, because not only would it fit that, but we didn't at first know that Rhaenyra would go to Harrenhal. It wasn't something that occurred to me. Okay, let's talk about these people at table. Of course, we didn't tell Sean who this is, but those are the dragon seeds. Yeah, that is Hard Hugh Hammer in the white hair, the blonde hair, probably Ulf the White in the bottom, which is kind of funny that he's not white-haired.
He's got kind of gray hair.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah, it is. There is a little gray in his beard.
It's a little bit gray. It's like he's like Ulf the Gray.
Ulf the Gray, and then Alan or Adam Valerian or Adam of Hull. I'm not sure which they'll call him and how they'll handle the whole bit, but they will handle it one way or the other.
But yeah, that is Adam, who we've seen elsewhere in previous
in the first
images.
trailer. Yeah, I think this is his only appearance in this trailer, but we saw him facing Rhaenyra, like they faced each other with that awesome shot of Cyrax
I'll pull
and
it up.
She-Smoke.
We have these.
Yeah,
we saw him here.
Yep.
As well. Oops, just those. Yeah. And yeah.
So. I said at first when I wrote this, I was writing notes for this, and I said it's pretty easy to tell which is which because the white-haired guy is Ulf the White, right? Wrong. That's not Ulf the White. So remember we pointed to Sean saying the same guy is also in that riot scene. So that's really like this is not something we can guess at from the book as far as I can tell. Like why is Hugh Hammer involved in the riot that happens after Jaehaerys' funeral? I got no idea, but it sure is interesting.
I'm guessing he lives in King's Landing. He was there, and we're just gonna like have like a person on the ground. Like we'll see him on the ground there, like have a different perspective. It's part of his introduction as being part of that riot. But that the dragon seed element happens after that.
Could be.
You know what I mean?
Could be.
That's what I think.
They definitely confirm that he is a blacksmith from Dragonstone.
Oh,
which means
so that's surprising.
Which means that doesn't mean he lives in Dragonstone.
No,
but
you're right.
that is it's surprising that they confirmed that, given that scene is clearly in King's Landing.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's super interesting, actually. Yeah, that is the question. Is what has him leave King's Landing and go to Dragonstone? Because I think that he is not a known dragon seed or writer or anything at the point of that riot.
Yeah,
that's like what I think.
So it's very hard for us to understand what's going on in that moment. There he is. There's like stuff happening, and
But like that's
It
very.
looks like he's like
really
grabbed some
distinct
loot, or he's
looking,
running
yeah.
off with some like he's a looter.
Yeah. It'd be interesting if he was at all part of instigating the riot at all. But like, I don't know that I think he is. I don't know that. I feel like we might just see him as one of the people there, and that's our introduction to him, and then we see him again on Dragonstone. I have questions about this though.
Me too. And I
Yeah.
like that. Like, this is one of those things where I'm like, I mean, I'm not gonna, like, some people would just be like, it's a change from the book, it's probably stupid. Like, no, I'm not gonna think that way. These guys have made a lot of good decisions, and it, maybe this is something clever. We certainly don't know what it is other than the basics, so we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
Now, this dinner scene, unfortunately, the downside to it is it increases my suspicion that there's no Nettles in the show. But there's also no Daemon at this dinner, which might mean, Nettles is elsewhere. Nettles could also be next season. Nettles doesn't have to exist this season for Nettles to exist at all.
Yeah, there could be a couple waves of dragon seeds,
Yeah. For example, Daemon. Ryan Condal said Daemon is a fixture and a character in the show. Do not fret, anybody, all in due time. That's from this most recent interview. That's not from last year, so he didn't change his mind. That's like a month ago he said that.
Yeah.
So Daemon's in the show, but that doesn't confirm he's in season 2.
No, I don't. In fact, I would say I don't think he's in season 2. I hope that he is mentioned a few times, specifically by Gwaine, who should have like grown up around him. Like,
yes,
they should know each other well. I would.
Gwaine will mention him.
That's my hope, is that Gwaine mentions Daemon. We get a little bit of a hint, and then we meet him in season 3, and we meet Nettles in season 3. And they just didn't want to overload us with too many characters in one season. They felt that Daemon and Nettles deserved their own like focus in season 3. I have to say, not my favorite decision still, because I think it would be more effective to see them earlier.
Yeah.
I think I don't know. I'm not crazy about the decision, but I don't think it's these characters are completely cut situation yet.
Which is I would totally be fine with that. If like, okay, we pushed them but we kept them. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Adaptation, it's difficult, budget, things like that.
And so with that, they can so the point is that they could have Nettles in season 3, but still give a couple of Nettles-ish things to Bela in season 2 for what they need her for, or there could just be nothing that they give her at all.
And I could see that. Like, if they're gonna have, are they really gonna show 4 different dragon riders succeeding in mounting dragons plus all the failures? That's a lot.
Yeah, it is.
So anyway, well, let's move on. Speaking of what they may have pivoted to instead. Suspicions from previous trailer are all but confirmed. Bela is at the Battle of Rook's Rest. But why? And I don't mean why did they change that from the book, although I'm curious a little bit. Mostly, why is she in combat at all? Rhaenyra didn't want Jace in battle. Why would she want her? So maybe Bela is going rogue here. She's 16 years old, the same age as Jace. Yeah. So this she might have just been like, I'm going to battle. You can't stop me.
Yeah,
and that's her personality.
Go help. She wants to go help, her grandma. She wants to go help Rhaenys in battle, and she just goes.
Maybe it's there's 2 ways to see this. She goes because she wants to help Rhaenys. Maybe she goes, and then Rhaenys has to help her, and that's what leads to Rhaenys' death. And then there's more pathos for Bela that way. She blames herself for Rhaenys. Because I don't know that we're going to see
her character. I gotta say, that'll lead to some awful discourse across the board from people who are mad that they did that to Bela's character, people who hate Bela for doing that. That'll be very controversial if it's Bela's fault at all.
I don't know if it'd make it Bela's fault, but it could be related, but it could be. Some people might see it as Bela's fault. I'm not sure.
But
that
I like the idea of. Well, I like, but I think that it would lead to great emotion if Bela witnesses Rhaenys' death.
And I'm very sure it's going to happen because we already have her at this battle, and Rhaenys is almost certainly. They probably didn't change Rhaenys' death, so yeah, I think she's going to see it. It also just doesn't make a lot of sense to just send the one dragon rider, which we saw in the book is what Rhaenyra does, and then Corlys complains about that after the fact. And maybe they just don't want to go that route. Maybe they don't want to, because it was a weird decision. They were just like, we're not going to have Rhaenyra make that weird decision. We're going to do it differently. We're going to have this drama with maybe Bela going without being ordered to. Maybe she decides to go on her own. Maybe take away the whole blaming her for Rhaenys' death part. It could factor in without that. So, a lot of different iterations are possible, but Bela's there. I mean, she's at Rook's Rest. That's like almost undoubted now. I think the last thing we have to talk about is the spoilery stuff for Daemon and Harrenhal. So let's do that. That is definitely Sir Simon Strong, almost 99%. Remember that Aemon ends up killing him and all the other Strongs. He makes like a pile of heads out of the Strongs, except Alice Rivers, who we still haven't seen in a trailer yet. And I'm like, where? Or maybe we have. I don't think we have.
If she's under glamour or something, we could have, but I doubt that.
Yeah. So there's some rumors that some of these things might be dream sequences. This one probably not, but some of the other ones could be. Some of the other scenes could be dream sequences. Ryan Condal definitely said they're going to play with the supernatural elements a bit, but not in a way that makes it clear that things are supernatural. At least that's how I interpret it. So yeah, Alice Rivers could be messing with him there, like getting in his head, making sounds. This could be a dream stuff. Lots of cool possibilities there. This scene where he's in night clothes is where I think that's the most likely to be happening. And it could also relate to Aemon in that Harrenhal mural. Maybe that's a dream sequence. Because if anyone's going to be having dreams of Alice, Aemon's maybe a better candidate than Daemon. Because they're the ones who are going to have a relationship. Like, Daemon is not going to vibe with Alice, for lack of a better word. They're not going to have a relationship unless that's a show change. But I definitely think, and I think you agree, Shay, that him creeping around the castle is... It's setting her up. Like, Daemon's reaction to Alice sets up Alice's reaction to Aemon, and I'm just so curious how they're going to handle her.
Yeah, that's probably my biggest question going into the season is how magical I think they'll go with Alice. I think I don't know. Like, if I'm trying to think of the biggest questions, it's probably that I want to know more about what they'll do with Nettles, but I just don't think I'll know unless they say something in an interview until season 3. I think I can't count her out until season 3 unless they give an interview about this.
I agree. So it's interesting to see how the parallel that they really are keeping at least a bit of focus on the strong parallels between Daemon and Aemon. Something that was shown a lot in season 1. Like Daemon establishing certain patterns and then Aemon sort of picking up on that and doing some similar things and being a younger version of Daemon in a lot of ways. Those parallels are only going to deepen with this Harrenhal stuff. They're both going to go there. They're both going to have interactions with Alice. Obviously, those interactions will be different, but they're going to be meaningful with the Strongs and then all over the Riverlands. Who knows how they're going to do that. And that's where we would really feel the loss of Nettles if they're chasing each other around the Riverlands and there's just one of them. So I agree with you. There's still a very good chance of her being in season 3. But my guess is confidently no that she's not in this season. But
yeah.
But not confident that she's cut entirely.
Yeah. Basically.
My theory would be that if they cut her from season 3, then it's Baela is going to be with Daemon for all that riding around the river, flying around the Riverland stuff, chasing Aemon business, which makes sense because she will have a personal stake in it too, Baela will, because of Rhaenys and Rook's Rest.
Yes.
More personal than it would have been in the books. Although it was still very personal in the books. It's still family stuff, so it's not like it wasn't personal there.
Yeah,
but
to be clear, I think Aziz and I agreed that we're trying to see how they might implement a cut, but neither of us wants that.
Yeah, neither of us wants that, but we're being realistic about it.
Yeah, but, we'll see. Never say never. He hasn't said anything concrete about Nettles one way or another, and I do have some hope here.
Yeah. And although there's only 8 episodes, they do a really good job of packing a lot per episode.
Yeah.
There's sometimes we're like, wow, that was only 1 episode. There's a lot happened in that one. I mean, we've reviewed enough episodes to have experienced that. So we've been talking about this for hours, and it's like we still have several scenes to talk about. It's already been over 2 hours. Well, we have one final quote from Ryan Condal to build the hype, and I think this builds the hype pretty darn well. Remember at the beginning of this episode, I said Condal said a lot of things in that interview that I really wanted to hear, things that make me feel positive, things that give me a good feeling about the direction of the show, like choices they've made. I know it's going to be things we don't agree with, things that we might criticize, but I think overall, things look pretty good. Things are lined up pretty well, and this quote really helps seal that confidence.
This season, we shot 2 of the largest sequences that certainly I've ever done as a maker of television. Certainly that House of the Dragon has ever done, Condal teases. I don't know that they're bigger necessarily than anything Game of Thrones has done, because they got pretty big in the end, but certainly we're going to see new things that you have not seen before within this world. There's some pretty epic stuff to come. It's just a couple months away, guys. Oh,
That's right.
Wait.
It is what is it? Less than 3 months now.
Yeah.
It is about 2.5. Yeah, so that's awesome. And that's really good. I love hearing that from Ryan. Like, he's trying not to get too far ahead of himself, saying, Game of Thrones' final seasons, there were some monstrously big scenes, usually battle scenes. And I think that's probably what he's referring to here. Rook's Rest is probably one of them, and the other one might be Battle of the Gullet.
Yeah. When I was thinking about things we haven't
or Burning
seen,
Mill. Battle of Burning Mill is another candidate.
Yeah, and I was wondering about things we haven't seen from before, like
dragons fighting each other.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah,
We have
dragons
not seen
fighting
that
each
yet.
other.
It's a very basic
For me,
thing we
it's
haven't
the
seen
Isle
yet.
of Faces.
The Isle of Faces. That's a thing we haven't seen before.
I
You're
know,
right.
I don't think that's what he's referring to, but that's what I think. I'm like, we saw the Isle.
Yeah, and we did see it. We've already seen that. We're going to
Yeah.
see more of it. Yeah, I wanted Daemon to I wanted that to be Daemon because then he could look over at it and he could see a little movement on the island. No, that would be cheesy, but it would be. I would love it anyway. But yeah, I want that foreshadowing of his death to be included in his flight over the lake. But if it's dark when he does that, we might not get it. Oh well, it's not like a fail on their part. I just wanted to see that. So yeah, I'm excited. Shay's excited. Sean's excited. I hope you guys are excited.
I think people are excited. I can tell from our viewership today. We had over 200 people watching
Very
live
good.
today. Everyone very hype. Chat was going off.
Cool. Well, we appreciate you all coming to hang out with us live today. And if you're catching this after the fact, we appreciate that too. Your patronage, your listenership means a lot to us. It's the only reason we can do this. It's the only reason we can focus on it full time. And if you want to help support our efforts, go to patreon.com/History of Westeros, or you can support us through Spotify subscriptions, or go to our website, historyofwesteros.com. There's a lot of different ways to support that are outlined there. By following the various links that explain that very thing. On behalf of Sean and Ashaya, we'll see you next time for the horrors at Hardhome. And I want to thank as well all the other people who helped make the show possible, like Joey, Jesse, and Bran. We'll be seeing a new look from Bran's great work with our intro. He's going to have modified it. We're excited for those changes. His great House of the Dragon intro that he made for us. Michael Klarfeld, always got to shout him out. He's a legendary man in our fandom with his extreme talent for map making and art in general. And, as you guys know what to do until next time. Valar reread us, but also Valar rewatch us.